Chapter 165. I didn't think that you would be able to take advantage of this opportunity to break through. However, your cultivation technique seems to be very special. It seems to have traces of a demonic beast's aura. A clear and delicate voice drifted into Du Xiaofu's ears. A pair of slightly puzzled eyes landed on Du Xiaofu's body. You're back. Du Xiaofu instantly stood up. His gaze shifted to the young girl who had returned at an unknown time. She had a tall and slender figure, an exquisite and peerless countenance, and beautiful jade-like eyes. Her entire being emitted a faint spiritual energy, giving people a sense of tranquility. This young girl couldn't help but think of the word elf. This young girl was an elf. It seems like you're fine now. The young girl gazed at Du Xiaofu. Within her beautiful jade-like eyes, there were ripples of surprise. Beneath her green robes, there was a graceful arc that would cause people to feel breathless. She then looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "You're really a monster. With such heavy injuries, you actually completely recovered and even broke through. This is truly inconceivable. I'm afraid that if my master didn't see it with his own eyes, he wouldn't believe it." Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. After that, he asked, "Oh right, where's your master?" Du Xiaofu still remembered that this fairy-like young girl's master was also a terrifying expert. Her strength was simply tyrannical to the point of being terrifying. The young girl slightly raised her head. Her eyes were like water, seemingly amiable. However, she also gave people a faint feeling of being 1,000 miles away from her. Her pearly white teeth lightly parted as her lips curved upwards. She then said, "My master isn't here. I came to the dark forest to temper myself for a period of time. My master said that I should temper myself more, as it would be beneficial for my future cultivation. Thank you for saving me this time." Du Xiaofu gazed at the young girl in front of him. Her fine black hair swayed slightly in the wind. She was elegant and refined. This kind of temperament made people unable to touch her. "I said there's no need to thank me. You also saved me before." The young girl gazed at Du Xiaofu before asking, "What do you plan to do next?" "Me?" Du Xiaofu's gaze flickered. He touched the black spot on his neck and said, "I'll find a way to remove this black fiend soul-tracking seal before heading to Tianwu Academy." Tianwu Academy? I've heard my master mention it before. It shouldn't be too far from the dark forest. My master said that Tianwu Academy used to be very powerful, but the current Tianwu Academy isn't as strong as before. After that, she quietly stared at Du Xiaofu. Her jade-like eyes were as calm as water as she continued, "Since you are fine now, I have to leave as well. Didn't you want to train in the dark forest?" When Du Xiaofu heard this, he didn't know why, but when he heard the girl say that she wanted to leave, he suddenly felt a little disappointed. Hearing this, the girl smiled faintly. This smile caused everything around her to pale in comparison. It was as if this smiling face was the only thing that existed in this entire space. She said to Du Xiaofu, "I want to temper myself. Master won't let me slack off. Why don't we go together? Since I want to head to Tianwu Academy, I have to pass through the dark forest." Du Xiaofu said to the girl with anticipation in his eyes. The girl hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. "I should be leaving the dark forest soon. However, I still have some time in the dark forest, so I can stay with you." "That's great." Du Xiaofu smiled. His mood was extremely good. Looking at the fairy-like girl before him, he asked, "My name is Du Xiaofu. What's your name?" "Dongli Qingqing." The girl said softly, "I forgot to tell you. I noticed that there are quite a few people from the Black Fiend sect in the vicinity. Their cultivation isn't bad and they should be looking for you. How did you offend them?" "Black Fiend sect?" Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's face turned sharp. He clenched his fists tightly and raised his head to look outside the cave. It seemed like the Black Fiend sect really wanted to bury him in the dark forest. "Even if they don't come looking for me, I won't let them off." Du Xiaofu's voice was stern. His gaze was cold as he said in a low voice, "I will make them regret it one day. They have a lot of people and your cultivation is still low. Even though you're like a monster, I'm afraid you won't be able to fight against the Black Fiend sect." Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu clenched his fists tightly and said, "I will do it one day. At that time, it will be time for them to regret it." Dongli Qingqing didn't say anything else. Her beautiful jade-like eyes shifted away from Du Xiaofu's face. She turned around and walked out of the cave. "Let's go down the mountain. If you want to follow me, you have to accompany me to a place first." "All right." Du Xiaofu looked at the back of that refined and otherworldly figure and then stepped forward. Outside the cave was the top of a steep cliff. It was so high that it made people dizzy. Below it was a deep valley. It was frighteningly quiet and cold. It was noon and the sun was dazzling. It shone on the vast and boundless dark forest in the distance. In the distance, there were mountain peaks towering out of the dense forest. They were scattered in layers, but they looked extremely majestic and peculiar. Du Xiaofu followed Dongli Qingqing down a rugged path from the top of the cliff. In fact, there wasn't a path. It was just that the two of them forced it into a path. Along the way, Dongli Qingqing didn't say anything. Her every movement was natural. No matter what she did, she was like a spirit that blended into the heaven and earth. Then, the two of them walked into the dense forest. Du Xiaofu began to be on guard. His gaze swept around from time to time. He was extremely cautious. "We got lost too slowly. We have to speed up." Suddenly, Dongli Qingqing turned around and said to Du Xiaofu. "Okay, actually Du Xiaofu nodded. He seemed to want to say something, but his voice was interrupted by Dongli Qingqing. She said, "I'll teach you a set of body movement. It's not a body movement martial skill, but it's not comparable to ordinary body movement martial skills. It's passed down in my clan. I'll teach you, but you can't teach it to anyone else. Also, don't use it casually in the future. If you're unlucky, it may bring you big trouble." As her voice fell, without waiting for Du Xiaofu to speak, Dongli Qingqing continued slowly, "The body movement I'm going to teach you is called wave-like freedom steps. It requires the support of extremely powerful Xian Qi. You also have to comprehend the power of nature. All things in the world are natural. You also have to practice the incantation. If you force yourself to practice the wave-like freedom steps, the meridians in your body will be disrupted. If you're lucky, you'll be paralyzed. If it's serious, you'll suffer from qigong deviation. You'll even be in danger of breaking your meridians. Rest and fly like a duck, drifting like a god. Wave-like subtle steps, luo xiong dusty. Walk freely, graceful like a graceful swan. Move and move impermanently, as if in danger and as if in safety. It's difficult to enter and stop, if it's past, if it's still." Incantation after incantation passed from Dongli Qingqing's mouth to Du Xiaofu's ears. Then, her beautiful figure moved slightly, and her footsteps changed. Obviously, it was extremely ordinary, but suddenly, it changed unpredictably, drifting like a god. Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on Dongli Qingqing's footsteps. Then, he seemed to have fallen into a sluggish state. Rest and fly like a duck, drifting like a god. Wave-like subtle steps, luo xiongduan. Walk freely, graceful like a graceful swan. Move unpredictably, as if it's dangerous or safe. It's difficult to enter and stop, if it's still. Following Dongli Qingqing's footsteps, Du Xiaofu murmured softly. Suddenly, an ethereal temperament gushed out from his body. Dongli Qingqing turned her head to look at Du Xiaofu. Within her beautiful, glass-like eyes, there was some astonishment. She didn't expect him to be able to grasp the basics of the family's ancestral movement technique so quickly. It was said that even the most terrifyingly talented person in the family couldn't grasp the basics so quickly. Then, Dongli Qingqing continued to look forward. Her footsteps changed. She didn't fly, but her speed was getting faster and faster. Especially in this dense forest, this movement technique was even more ethereal. It was as if it could merge into one with the space. Shuttling through the bushes and weeds was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. It was also as graceful as a swan. Du Xiaofu still couldn't reach the same level as Dongli Qingqing, but his speed was getting faster and faster. It seemed that he had gradually comprehended the essence of it. The more he comprehended, the more shocked Du Xiaofu was. This wave-like carefree steps was definitely not ordinary. He didn't know which ancestor expert in Dongli Qingqing's family had comprehended it. This movement technique was all-encompassing and mysterious. The more he comprehended the wave-like carefree steps, the softer and more casual it was when he activated it. The more ethereal it was, the more effortless it was to be able to accelerate. Chi. After nearly 4 hours, after passing through a large area of dense forest, Dongli Qingqing's footsteps came to a halt. Her beautiful figure slowly came to a stop. Du Xiaofu swept from behind. He restrained the qi under his feet and stabilized his body in an extremely free and easy manner. However, he was obviously much worse than Dongli Qingqing. How do you feel? Dongli Qingqing asked with a smile. The wave-like carefree steps is so powerful. It seems to contain a lot of movement techniques of birds and beasts. Du Xiaofu said. I didn't expect you to be able to comprehend this step so quickly. You're really a monster. Dongli Qingqing nodded slightly and then said to Du Xiaofu, the wave-like carefree steps indeed contains movement techniques of birds and beasts. However, they all take the graceful and unfettered side. You can observe more birds and beasts in the future. It will be helpful for you to comprehend the wave-like carefree steps. Okay. Du Xiaofu nodded and said to Dongli Qingqing, I will comprehend it well. According to the rumors in my clan, if you can comprehend the wave-like carefree steps to the strongest level, you can also grasp the moon and pick the stars in the sky and subdue the flood dragon and capture the dragon in the sea. You can also walk on the waves and be free and unfettered. Dongli Qingqing smiled at Du Xiaofu and said, unfortunately, this is also a legend. The wave-like carefree steps is so vast. Maybe it is really possible after you comprehend it thoroughly. Du Xiaofu said. The wave-like carefree steps was indeed not an ordinary thing. There seems to be some movement in front. Suddenly, Dongli Qingqing looked in front of her. Time to update. Today's update is complete. It's the last 2 days of this month. Brothers, please check if there are any fresh flowers. I'm looking for fresh flowers and recommendation tickets. Chapter 166. Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed. His mental power spread out, but he did not detect any movement nearby. Dongli Qingqing seemed to have sensed Du Xiaofu's mental power fluctuations. She said softly, your mental power is already very strong, but the distance is rather far. Plus, I have some special means, so you can't detect it yet. But it's just up ahead. Is it people from the Black Fiend sect? Du Xiaofu smiled softly, but he knew in his heart that his strength was probably much weaker than Dongli Qingqing's. The day he collapsed and fainted, Dongli Qingqing would be able to easily kill a newly ascended 4-star spirit talisman master. Even if he had broken through again now, he would not be able to do so unless he put his life on the line. But then again, he did not know if he could kill a 4-star spirit talisman master. There should be people from the Black Fiend sect among them, as well as people from other forces. They are currently fighting. Do you want to go take a look? Dongli Qingqing asked Du Xiaofu. As if she knew what Du Xiaofu was thinking, she deliberately added, they don't seem to be very strong. Du Xiaofu hesitated for a moment, then nodded, a cold glint in his eyes. Let's go. Restrain your aura. Don't let them discover us. As soon as Dongli Qingqing finished speaking, she activated the wave-like carefree steps. Her beautiful figure seemed to blend into the surroundings, and in an instant, she was in front of them. There was some envy in his eyes, but then he smiled softly. Du Xiaofu's figure moved, also activating the wave-like carefree steps. Then, he turned into a purple blur and darted into the dense forest. A moment later, two figures appeared on top of a towering tree, hiding behind the huge trunk. Their gazes were fixed on the terrain of a small canyon in front of them. At this time, within the small canyon, there were hundreds of people dressed in black, all emanating a murderous aura. One look and one could tell that they were from the Black Fiend sect. At this moment, the 100 over Black Fiend sect's disciples had surrounded a dozen or so clothed individuals. There were quite a number of corpses on the ground. Looking at the mess on the ground and the wounds and blood on their bodies, it was obvious that a fiery battle had erupted earlier. The Black Fiend sect's members clearly held the absolute upper hand. Shui Yunming, don't go too far. In front of the dozen or so Black Fiend sect disciples, there was a young man in short robes who was around 25 or 26 years old. He stared coldly at another young man in black robes who was about the same age as the Black Fiend sect disciples. The black-robed young man's eyes were filled with arrogance as he looked at the short-robed young man and sneered, "Mu Zhenghao, this is not the Dark City. It's your bad luck to fall into my hands today. As long as you give me the ancient viper bone you obtained from the auction house, I will spare your life. How about it? You want the ancient viper's secret bone? You don't have the ability yet. If you have the ability, let's fight one-on-one. What's the point of having the advantage in numbers?" The young man sneered. Although the ancient viper's mystic bone is incomplete, it is still extraordinary. If I can get it, it will be beneficial to my cultivation. The black-clothed young man's eyes flashed coldly as if he had already won. He said to the short-clothed young man, "But if it's a one-on-one duel, I can play with you normally, but not today. I still have things to do. If you don't hand over the ancient viper bone, you can only die today." The short-shirt young man fixed his gaze on the black-shirt young man and said in a deep voice, "Shui Yunming, are you trying to start a war between the Mu Fort and the Black Killing Sect?" "Hee hee," the black-shirt young man sneered. The corners of his mouth curled into a sneer as he said, "Mu Zhenghao, do you think anyone can escape from me today? If all of you die, who knows if it's the Black Killing Sect's doing? When the Mu Fort finds out in the future, what can they do to me? Kill!" As the black-shirt young man's voice fell, he waved his hand and a murderous intent shot out. Swish! Swish! Suddenly, hundreds of Black Killing Sect's disciples dashed out again. Their figures flickered and their celestial chi surged. There was a strange burst of evil aura. "Everyone, let's go all out and escort the young fort master away." Among the remaining dozen people from the Mu Fort, there was a loud shout. Chi la la. One by one, their celestial chi burst out and instantly crossed each other. The sharp weapons in their hands were accompanied by terrifying celestial chi as they slashed at each other. There were sword gleams, saber gleams, and energy gales that missed. The surrounding rocks were blasted apart and towering trees were cut in half. Swish! Swish! The short-shirt young man soared into the sky. Two middle-aged burly men followed him. Both of them were at the Pulse Spirit Realm. "Mu Zhenghao, you can't escape." At the same time, the black-shirt young man soared into the sky with the four middle-aged men beside him. They quickly besieged the short-shirt young man and his two companions. Without any delay, they began to besiege them. They had been prepared for this for a long time. They directly activated their pulse spirits. It was obvious that they wanted to end the battle quickly. Streaks of energy rune attacks spread throughout the canyon. Roar! Roar! Many pulse spirits were activated. The demonic beast shadows roared like thunder. Their aura was astonishing. Sand and stones flew in the canyon and there were continuous sonic booms. Boom! A deep sonic boom suddenly resounded. The black-shirt young man immediately pounced on the short-shirt young man. Both of them were wrapped in celestial chi and activated their pulse spirits. They began to collide in a frenzy. Du Xiaofu restrained his aura on the towering tree behind the small canyon. He looked at the scene in front of him and frowned slightly. The Black Killing Sect had 5 people at the Pulse Spirit Realm. Judging from the fluctuation of their aura, the black-shirt young man was at the initial stage of the Pulse Spirit Realm. However, among the other 4 cultivators, one was at the initial stage of the pulse spirit realm. The remaining 3 were at the mysterious level of the pulse spirit realm. The short-shirt young man from the Mu clan fort was at the initial stage of the pulse spirit realm, just like the black-shirt young man. Both of them had activated their pulse spirits and were locked in a fierce battle. However, the other 2 pulse spirit realm cultivators from the Mu clan fort were at the initial stage of the pulse spirit realm and the mysterious level of the pulse spirit realm. These 2 pulse spirit realm cultivators from the Mu clan fort were besieged by 3 pulse spirit realm cultivators from the mysterious level of the pulse spirit realm and 1 at the initial stage of the pulse spirit realm from the black killing sect. In an instant, they were in an absolute disadvantageous position and were in a precarious situation. Rumble. The pulse spirits in the canyon below roared. The dozen or so people from the Mu clan fort could not resist the siege of hundreds of people from the black killing sect. The murderous aura swept across, accompanied by the smell of blood. It was almost nauseating. The people from the Mu clan fort were constantly being killed, and screams and wails were heard. The Mu clan fort can't hold on any longer. Du Xiaofu's gaze trembled, and the coldness in his eyes spread. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth slightly and made a decision in his heart. He lifted his head and said to Dongli Qingqing, who was beside him, "Wait for me. I'll go and help the people from the Mu clan fort." "Why do you want to help them?" "As far as I know, the people from the Mu clan fort are not good people. If you want to deal with the people from the black killing sect, you can wait until both sides are injured before you take action." Dongli Qingqing seemed to understand Du Xiaofu's thoughts. She looked at Du Xiaofu with her jade-like eyes and said, "With your current cultivation, I'm afraid that even if you go down and help, it might not be useful." Du Xiaofu looked at the canyon in front of him and felt that his body was filled with celestial qi and his realm had increased. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. He said calmly, "A few people from the mysterious pulse spirit realm shouldn't be able to kill me. Even if the people from the Mu clan fort are not good people, at least we have a common enemy. I can't touch the black killing sect alone now, so I'll leave more enemies for them first. Then you should be careful. You can come with me, but I won't help you. Master said that people have to rely on themselves." "You can only rely on yourself," Dongli Qingqing said softly to Du Xiaofu. "Well, since the black killing sect has provoked me, then they should prepare to suffer. I'll let them know that I'm not to be trifled with." As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, the celestial qi under his feet moved. He executed the wave-like carefree steps, and his body was like a falling leaf in the breeze. He landed lightly on the ground and dashed into the canyon. Why did I agree to go with him? I clearly wanted to say no. Dongli Qingqing's eyes moved slightly as she looked at the purple-robed figure dashing out from under the tree. There were some ripples in her eyes. Rumble. In the midst of the bloody battle in the canyon, a ferocious and terrifying fluctuation suddenly erupted. A pale golden figure descended from the sky and dashed into the canyon. Then, one by one, the black killing sect's disciples were thrown into the air by Luin Fei. They were like stones. Everyone from the Mu clan fort, I'm here to lend you a hand. The pale golden figure shouted from within the halo. Wherever he passed, the black killing sect's disciples were unstoppable. All of them were sent flying and died. Any pulse spirit that came close would be crushed and destroyed in an instant. It was extremely overbearing. You dare to touch my black killing sect? You're courting death. A perfect pulsation realm cultivator realized that something was wrong. With a loud shout, he immediately pounced toward the pale golden figure. He activated a strange pulse soul behind him, which looked like a pangolin or a python. In an instant, it appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, blocking his path. Destroy! Du Xiaofu shouted. He waved his hand and the pale golden talisman runes flickered. His movements seemed simple and ordinary, but they contained a mysterious move. It was as if the Tao was the simplest. As his hand fell, the pulse spirit demonic beast's shadow was smashed into rune fragments. In the blink of an eye, Du Xiaofu appeared in front of the great perfection pulsation realm expert like a ghost. His feet executed the wave-like free steps that he had just comprehended not long ago. With a punch, he landed directly on the former's chest. Boom! As the punch landed, the perfect pulsation realm cultivator's defense was directly shattered. Then, with a muffled sound from his chest, his body was suddenly sent flying. A pulsation realm mysterious level black killing sect's disciple appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. A ferocious gust of wind swept out. He violently slammed his palm toward Du Xiaofu. Bang! Du Xiaofu did not dodge. His body was like a wild bull as he charged forward. Chapter 167. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. As the palm print fell, Du Xiaofu continued to charge forward as if he was not affected at all. However, the Pulse Realm Mystery level disciple from the Black Fiend sect had one of his arms shattered by the rebounding force. Blood spurted from his mouth as his body flew backward. Bang! 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 In a short time, the pulse souls of several Black Fiend sect disciples with higher cultivation levels were directly crushed. They were invincible and were easily destroyed by Du Xiaofu. We have reinforcements. Kill! We have reinforcements. The remaining disciples of the Mu clan fort, who were less than 10, saw the sudden appearance of strong reinforcements. After a moment of shock, hope burst out from their despair. Damn it, who is that bastard? Seeing that the Black Fiend sect disciples below were unstoppable and suffered heavy casualties in an instant, the black-shirt youth from the Black Fiend sect, who was fighting fiercely with the short-shirt youth, roared angrily. I wonder where you are from. I, Mu Zhenghao, thank you on behalf of the Mu clan fort. The short-shirt youth from the Mu clan fort felt as if he had been injected with a shot of cardiac stimulant. How dare you touch my Black Fiend sect? You're courting death. A Pulse Spirit Realm Mystery level cultivator from the Black Fiend sect suddenly withdrew from the battle and swooped down from the sky. Accompanied by the phantom of a scaled demonic beast Pulse Soul behind him, he charged towards Du Xiaofu with a powerful aura. Skyquake wings. Du Xiaofu shouted softly. He opened his left hand and fiercely slapped at the scaled demonic beast. Like a rock flapping its wings, golden light flashed and the runes dazzled. Chi! Chi! A large piece of the scaled demonic beast Pulse Soul Phantom was shattered by Du Xiaofu's slap. However, it recovered in an extremely short period of time. However, the huge impact caused Du Xiaofu's body to stagger back a step. The difference between the Pulse Spirit Realm Mystery level and the Pulse Spirit Realm Mystery level was an entire realm. Ordinary people could not surpass it at all. For Du Xiaofu to be able to withstand it was already a terrifying level of freakishness. It's actually only at the Pulse Realm Mystic level. What a strange aura. The mysterious Pulse Spirit stage expert from the Black Fiend school was also surprised. However, he did not stop there. He formed a hand seal in his hand and a claw seal erupted with dazzling runic light. Instantly, it enveloped Du Xiaofu, wanting to suppress and kill him. Then, to everyone's surprise, Du Xiaofu had no intention of dodging the claw. He waved his hand again, and it swept out like a rock's claw. Hula! The two claws collided. After a momentary stalemate, Du Xiaofu's claw actually managed to resist the power of an initial Pulse Spirit stage practitioner, which was enough to kill him. Then, a faint golden symbol rune instantly erupted, tearing apart the former's claw imprint. In a flash, the claw imprint directly grabbed the former's claw imprint. Chi la la. Blood spurted out. The Meridian Spirit expert struggled with all his might, but one of his arms was ripped off by Du Xiaofu. Ah, the Meridian Spirit stage expert let out a miserable shriek. Blood spurted out of his mouth as he quickly fled into the air. The entire small valley was shocked. The arm of the Meridian Spirit stage expert had been ripped off. How terrifying was the purple-robed figure wrapped in the faint golden light. He was too powerful. Bullshit Meridian Spirit, destroy. Du Xiaofu showed his might. He grabbed a Black Fiend school disciple not far from him and threw him at the Meridian Spirit stage expert's Meridian Spirit stage expert like a rock. Under the huge impact, the Meridian Spirit Stage Expert's Meridian Spirit Stage Expert was shattered. The Black Fiend School disciple was also smashed into a bloody mist. Poochie. The unlucky Meridian Spirit Stage Expert spat out a mouthful of blood in the air due to the shattering of his Meridian Spirit Stage Expert's Meridian Spirit Stage Expert's face was pale. He was not lightly injured. His body floated in the air as he stared hatefully at Du Xiaofu. However, he did not dare to come down, nor did he dare to approach. He was afraid that the terrifying brat would throw the Black Fiend School disciple at him like he was throwing his Meridian Spirit Stage Expert. Oh my God! Everyone was shocked. Was that guy still a normal human being? He was simply a savage beast. Bang, bang, bang. Du Xiaofu did not stop at all. He continued to kill the Black Fiend School disciples nearby. Du Xiaofu wanted to hurt the Black Fiend School. Since the Black Fiend School wanted to deal with him, they had to suffer his revenge. Du Xiaofu never thought of himself as a soft-hearted person. It was good to collect some interest now. Bastard, that brat's cultivation is not high. He only has brute force. Kill him together. The black-robed young man from the Black Fiend School was furious that he had severely injured a careless Meridian Spirit Stage Expert. However, he could also see that Du Xiaofu's cultivation was not high. He only had brute force. Attack him together. Although the remaining Black Fiend School disciples below were terrified, they immediately formed a formation after hearing the order. They did not care much about the people from the Mu Clan fort. Their target was Du Xiaofu. Rumble. Waves of celestial qi surged, and a murderous aura erupted, sweeping toward Du Xiaofu. Come on! Du Xiaofu shouted. At this moment, the pale golden light in his eyes surged. He was not afraid of anything at all. How could Du Xiaofu be afraid of a siege that did not even have a Meridian Spirit Stage Expert? His celestial qi surged, causing the space to fluctuate violently. His body rushed directly into the siege formation of the Black Fiend School. With a raise of his hand, figures were sent flying, trampled, and smashed into pieces. Large areas of Meridian spirits were directly destroyed into ruins. Ah, screams and wails continued. Not far away, the remaining Mu Clan fort disciples who finally had a chance to catch their breath gasped. This helper was simply a wild beast. He was definitely not a normal human. It was too terrifying. Run, we can't resist at all. We can't stop him at all. Run for your lives. Hundreds of Black Fiend School disciples were reduced to less than 30 in the blink of an eye. None of them dared to move forward. If they were caught by the terrifying master, they would have their limbs broken if they were lucky. In the worst case, they would die. How could they dare to resist? That peerlessly domineering aura that seemed capable of destroying everything in its path caused one's heart to palpitate even more. The black-shirt young man was furious. Murderous intent shot out from his eyes. He shouted at the two Black Fiend School experts who were besieging a Meridian Spirit Stage Expert from the Mu Clan fort, "Damn bastards! Protector Liu, go and destroy that brat." Yes! A tall middle-aged man with skin as fair as a woman's rushed down after hearing the order. He urged a demonic bird Meridian Spirit Phantom that was covered in blazing flames to rush toward Du Xiaofu. Whoosh! Instantly, the phantom of the demonic bird accompanied by blazing flames swept out, enveloping Du Xiaofu. The flames were accompanied by some runes. This Meridian Soul-type demonic beast was definitely an extremely powerful existence. The rolling flames seemed to want to incinerate Du Xiaofu into ashes. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked around. There were no more Black Fiend School disciples around him. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu reached into his chest and a stone appeared in his hand. It was a stone that looked like a five-fingered mountain peak. It was as if 5 mountains had gathered together in an irregular arrangement. It was heavy and hard to the touch. It was the stone that he had obtained in the 1,000 caves that had the same shape as the Meridian Spirit. So what if you can fly? Come down. Du Xiaofu laughed loudly. He was extremely domineering. A pale golden light surged in his hand. He threw the mountain peak stone at the demonic bird phantom. Bang! While everyone was in shock, the stone in Du Xiaofu's hand was thrown. It was wrapped in a golden light. It was like an impact cannon. It reopened the blazing flames and directly smashed onto the demonic bird phantom. Ah, the demonic bird phantom looked at the mountain peak stone that was smashing towards it. Suddenly, it seemed to have felt the most terrifying aura. Its eyes were filled with fear. Then, it was directly smashed. It immediately let out a crow-like cry and its body directly turned into runes and shattered. Pucci! The expression of the fair-skinned middle-aged man suddenly changed. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Good stone, it's really hard. The stone fell from the sky. Du Xiaofu took a big step forward and grabbed the palm-sized mountain peak stone in his hand. So what if you can fly? Come down! Du Xiaofu shouted loudly. He waved his hand and gathered his strength. He fiercely held the mountain peak stone in his hand and smashed it towards the fair-skinned middle-aged man in midair. The fair-skinned middle-aged man's expression changed greatly. He gritted his teeth and stretched out his hand. A dazzling rune light burst out and he quickly grabbed the stone with his claw. Chi La! The mountain peak stone shook the fair-skinned middle-aged man's palm. It was as if the bones in his palm were about to break. His body flew back in midair. However, he seemed to have resisted the huge force. Suddenly, the fair-skinned middle-aged man saw runes spread out from the strange stone in his hand. Wisps of mist appeared from the surface of the stone. A terrifying aura burst out and directly rushed into his palm. Ka! The huge force surged out and the bones in the fair-skinned middle-aged man's palm were directly shattered. The bones in his arm made cracking sounds as the huge force rushed into his organs. Then, his body, which was suspended low in the air, staggered and fell from midair. This scene fell into the eyes of the others. They saw the Pulse Spirit Realm cultivator being smashed down by Du Xiaofu with a stone. Chi La! However, just as his body was about to hit the ground, the fair-skinned middle-aged man hurriedly stopped his fall. Then, he rose into the air again. However, he kept a distance from Du Xiaofu and did not dare to approach him. Bang! However, the falling mountain peak stone smashed into a 100-meter-tall rock in the small valley. The rock was immediately smashed into a pile of rubble. However, the mountain peak stone was not damaged at all. A faint, soft and tender voice could be heard. Bastard, it hurts. This stone is really useful. Du Xiaofu picked up the stone again and looked at the black-shirt youth from the Black Fiend sect in midair. He was another Pulse Spirit Realm cultivator at the Pulse Spirit Realm mystery level. Chapter 168. Looks like your position in the Black Fiend sect is a little higher. I'll choose you. Du Xiaofu tossed the mountain peak rock in his palm, before viciously throwing it at the black-cloaked youth. Swish! The mountain peak rock transformed into a ray of light. Under Du Xiaofu's ferocious throw, it soared into the sky like a cannonball. However, its trajectory suddenly changed in midair, smashing towards the black-clothed youth's vain spirit and a malevolent scaled exotic beast phantasm. Bang! The malevolent scaled exotic beast phantasm seemed to be alive, and was extremely substantial. It was currently entangled with the short-clothed youth's vain spirit, a huge python. Caught off guard, the scaled exotic beast phantasm was directly smashed by Du Xiaofu's rock. Its body was immediately pierced through, and with a miserable roar, it turned into runes and shattered. Ugh! The black-clothed youth, who was in an intense battle with the short-clothed youth, suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood due to his vain spirit being shattered. Bang! The short-clothed youth finally found an opportunity. A heavy punch heavily landed on the chest of the black-clothed youth, causing another mouthful of fresh blood to spurt out from the latter's mouth. His body was sent flying like a kite with its string cut. Little bastard, Mu Zhenghao, we will settle this debt in the future. I will definitely not let you off. A dark and stern voice rang out from the black-clothed youth's mouth. As his body was sent flying, he took the opportunity to hastily flee. He did not dare to stay any longer. The purple-clothed youth, who was wrapped in a faint golden halo, was too terrifying. Retreat, quickly retreat. In the air, the two Meridian Spirit Realm practitioners who hadn't dared to approach Du Xiaofu, as well as the two Meridian Spirit Realm practitioners who were fighting, saw that the black-clothed youth had retreated as well. All of them hurriedly retreated, afraid that Du Xiaofu would throw another stone at them. Flee, quickly flee. The remaining Black Fiend sect disciples in the small canyon naturally fled in a hurry when they saw this. They wished that their parents had given them an extra pair of legs. The faint golden halo around him converged. Du Xiaofu picked up the mountain peak rock from the fallen ground and kept it in his arms like a treasure. Then, he quickly searched the corpses of the Black Fiend sect disciples. One by one, the Qianquan bags were skillfully kept by Du Xiaofu. This caused the remaining Mu Fort disciples to be puzzled. They secretly wondered if this youth was here to help them or just to rob them. However, in the eyes of everyone from the Mu Fort, there was a look of gratitude. Everyone knew that if it was not for the frightening young man in front of them, they would most probably not. The short-robed young man and the two Meridian Spirit stage practitioners withdrew their Meridian Spirits and landed in the gorge. They stared at Du Xiaofu, who was packing up his Qianquan bag, in shock. They never thought that the one who had helped them would be such a young man. He looked to be only 16 or 17 years old, but his strength was so terrifying. When he saw that Du Xiaofu was almost done packing up the Qianquan bags, the short-clothed youth walked up to Du Xiaofu. He cupped his fists and said gratefully, "I'm Mu Zhenghao from the Mu Fort. I don't know this little brother's name. Thank you for your help. I can't thank you enough. You're welcome. My name is Du Xiaofu." Du Xiaofu put away many of the Qianquan bags. He seemed to be in a good mood. He then looked at Mu Zhenghao and asked, "Are you the sworn enemy of the Black Fiend sect?" At the mention of the Black Fiend sect, Mu Zhenghao's eyes immediately turned cold. He replied to Du Xiaofu, "Brother Xiaofu, you may not know this, but our Mu Fort and the Black Fiend sect did not have any big grudges. However, in the Dark Forest, there were some inevitable conflicts. I did not expect Shui Yunming from the Black Fiend sect to attack me today. If it was not for Brother Du's help, I'm afraid we would have been in deep trouble. When I return, I will not let the Black Fiend sect off. The Mu Fort is not to be trifled with." Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. He was not very interested in the strength of the Mu Fort and the Black Fiend sect. Even if the Mu Fort was stronger than the Black Fiend sect and could take care of the Black Fiend sect in the future, Du Xiaofu would not be too happy. Instead, he would be a little disappointed. After all, it was better to take revenge on the Black Fiend sect by himself. Now, he just wanted to find a few more opponents for the Black Fiend sect. Du Xiaofu felt that the enemies of the Black Fiend sect were half his friends. On the other hand, the friends of the Black Fiend sect were his enemies. "Do you have any way to get rid of this thing?" Du Xiaofu touched the Black Fiend soul tracking seal on his neck and asked Mu Zhenghao. At this time, the Black Fiend soul tracking seal on his neck had been sealed and turned into a faint black mark. If one did not look carefully, it would be difficult to see it. Since the Mu Fort was the enemy of the Black Fiend sect, Du Xiaofu thought that there might be a way to get rid of the Black Fiend soul tracking seal. Although the Black Fiend soul tracking seal had been sealed by Dongli Qingqing and would not be a problem for the time being, Du Xiaofu was still a little worried. It was better to find a way to get rid of it as soon as possible. "This is the Black Fiend soul tracking seal." Mu Zhenghao looked at the faint black mark on Du Xiaofu's neck and quickly recognized it. "That's right. I think it's called the Black Fiend soul tracking seal. Do you have a way to get rid of it?" Du Xiaofu asked. "This Black Fiend soul tracking seal is very strange. It is said that it is impossible to get rid of it. There is no way I can do anything about it." Mu Zhenghao looked at Du Xiaofu and frowned slightly. He said, "However, Brother Du, you don't have to worry too much. You are my savior. Why don't you follow me to the Mu Fort? First of all, in the Mu Fort, even if the Black Fiend sect knows that Brother Du is here, they will not dare to do anything. Also, you can let my father and the powerhouses in the Mu Fort see if there is a way to get rid of this Black Fiend's soul tracking seal. There is no need for that. Du Xiaofu shook his head. It seemed that the Mu Fort had no way to get rid of the Black Fiend's soul tracking seal. He then said to Mu Zhenghao, I have something to do. I will take my leave first. Goodbye. Brother Du, wait a minute. Mu Zhenghao quickly stopped Du Xiaofu and kindly reminded him, does Brother Du really not intend to come with us? Since you have the Black Fiend sect's Black Fiend soul chasing seal on your body, you should have some grudges with the Black Fiend sect. The people around here are all from the Black Fiend sect. You just saved me. I am afraid that you will be in trouble if you encounter the Black Fiend sect. Brother Du, you are very powerful. However, there are also powerhouses in the Black Fiend sect. It is said that there are even martial marquee powerhouses. It is better for you to come with us. There should be powerhouses from the Mu Fort coming to pick me up. By then, you will not have to worry about the people from the Black Fiend sect. Du Xiaofu thought about it and felt that it was a good idea. However, he could not leave with the people from the Mu Fort now. This was because Dongli Qingqing was still around. If he did not encounter Dongli Qingqing, it would be a good idea. Therefore, he shook his head and said, thank you for your kindness, but there is no need for that. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu turned around and left. Although Dongli Qingqing said that the people from the Mu Fort were not good people, Du Xiaofu felt that Mu Zhenghao was quite pleasing to the eye. As for good people, no one who could survive in a place like the Dark Forest was purely good. Good people would not survive for long in the Dark Forest. Looking at Du Xiaofu's back, Mu Zhenghao said loudly, Brother Du, it is not convenient for you to come with us. If you have the chance to go to the Dark Forest, remember to look for me at the Mu Fort. I will never forget the kindness of saving my life. Young Fort Master, Du Xiaofu is so young, but his strength is so terrifying. I wonder who he is. I have never heard of him in the Dark Forest. A person with such talent must have a strong background. After a while, seeing the purple-robed youth's back disappear into the distance, the burly man at the mysterious pulse spirit realm said to Mu Zhenghao. Mu Zhenghao's eyes moved slightly. Looking at Du Xiaofu's back, he said in a low voice, Brother Du must have just arrived in the Dark Forest. In public, he saved our lives. In private, with his talent, he is destined to achieve extraordinary things in the future. Therefore, if we have the chance in the future, we should make friends with him. Young Fort Master is wise. No wonder the Fort Master often praises you. The burly man laughed. Mu Zhenghao's pale face smiled slightly. He then said, the experts from our Mu Fort should be arriving soon. According to our spies, the Black Fiend sect has made such a big move this time. According to our spies, the Black Fiend sect accidentally obtained an egg of a demonic beast on the heavenly beasts list. However, after the egg was emulsified, the demonic beast escaped. It is said that it fled to this area. The other forces seem to have received the news and have sent experts here. Whoever can obtain the demonic beast will have the opportunity to suppress the other forces in a short time. We should not fall behind. After all, our news is faster than the other forces. As for today's debt, if we have the chance, we will naturally settle it with Shui Yunming. Swoosh swoosh, after a while, after cleaning up the corpses in the canyon, the people from the Mu Fort hurriedly left. Within the forest, Dongli Qingqing stared at Du Xiaofu. Her glassy eyes were filled with bewilderment. She felt that the tyrannical aura he exuded was extremely familiar. She then spoke, the cultivation art you cultivate is truly unique. Your aura feels extremely familiar. Is that so? Du Xiaofu smiled slightly. He did not intend to say anything more. However, he was somewhat satisfied with his current strength. After breaking through to the Pulse Realm's mystery level, his strength had improved a lot. In the future, he would not be afraid of those who had just entered the Pulse Spirit Realm. It seemed that he did not have to worry too much about the Pulse Spirit Realm's mystery level. Dongli Qingqing did not intend to ask more. She said to Du Xiaofu, "Let's continue. We need to hurry. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be too late." "Where are we going?" Du Xiaofu asked curiously. "To deal with a Marquis Realm demonic beast." "Are you afraid?" Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. Her smile was enough to make any man lose his soul. Du Xiaofu did not lose his soul. However, he was stunned. He was not stunned by the beautiful smile, but because he heard the words Marquis Realm. A Marquis Realm demonic beast was equivalent to a Marquis Realm expert. He looked at Dongli Qingqing and said in shock, "Are you kidding?" Chapter 169. No. "If you are afraid, you don't have to follow me," Dongli Qingqing said with a faint smile. She used the wave-like free steps, and then her beautiful figure appeared in front of him. "Who said I was afraid? How could I be afraid? Absolutely not." Du Xiaofu looked up and gathered his courage. He used the wave-like free steps and followed her all the way. 2 days later, after dawn, the first rays of the morning sun came. Looking from afar, the sky seemed to be covered with a thin translucent fog. Then, it slowly turned into a sky full of red clouds and a sea full of golden waves. The red sun was like a furnace of boiling molten steel, spewing out dazzling golden light, illuminating the vast and boundless dark forest. In an area full of mountains, the towering peaks were connected. Occasionally, the peaks were verdant, and the peak was covered with clouds and mist, like a picture scroll. Whoosh! On a protruding rock on the mountainside, the green light around a beautiful figure slowly converged, as if countless green energy threads had mysteriously poured into her body. Then, her beautiful glass-like eyes slowly opened, like a scene of flowers blooming, and a mouthful of turbid air was gently exhaled from her red lips. "This guy is really a monster." Dongli Qingqing looked down the mountain. At this time, under the morning sun, in the hazy clouds and mist under the mountain, a purple-robed figure was constantly changing. The purple-robed figure was erratic, light and elegant, like a god, but at this moment, there was a kind of domineering and fierce aura in it. Whoosh whoosh, under the mountain, Du Xiaofu's figure shuttled among the messy rocks, erratic and unpredictable, and a faint golden light flashed under his feet. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's figure paused slightly, and his eyes fell into deep thought. He murmured softly, "I should be able to completely integrate it. The wave-like free steps is unpredictable and erratic. If I can add the body movement of the Golden-Winged Rock clan, it should be stronger and more suitable for me. You have practiced the wave-like free steps for the whole night. We should continue to move." A clear and delicate voice came, and a beautiful figure arrived. Dongli Qingqing slowly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. "It's already daybreak?" Du Xiaofu snapped out of his thoughts and looked at the sky. While cultivating, he really did feel like time was flying by. He then looked at the girl in front of him and a smile appeared on his face. He said softly, "Then let's go. We can slow down. Our destination is not far ahead. If we get too close, I'm afraid that it will sense us." Dongli Qingqing walked forward with light steps. Then, she seemed to be curious and asked Du Xiaofu softly, "I saw that when you practiced the carefree steps, you seemed to have added something that made the carefree steps appear a little different. Occasionally, I'll have some comprehension, so I want to try and see if I can integrate it. It's just that I haven't succeeded yet." Du Xiaofu smiled. When he was practicing the carefree steps, he suddenly thought that the Golden-Winged Rock clan was also famous for its speed. If he could integrate some body movement and speed of the Golden-Winged Rock clan, it should be more suitable for him. After all, he also practiced the Golden-Winged Rock clan's cultivation method. You're right. The carefree steps is different at the end of each person's practice. The comprehension is different, so the result is naturally different. The carefree steps that I practice is also different from the people in my clan. But this difference can't be separated from the core support of the carefree steps. Murong Qingqing nodded slightly to Du Xiaofu and said, "Don't fly fast like a duck, drifting like a god. The wave-like subtle steps, Luo Xiongduan. Walk freely, graceful like a startled swan. Move unpredictably, as if in danger and as if in safety. Advance and stop difficult, as if in the past and as if in the past. The core of the carefree steps is in these 5 sentences. If you comprehend it incorrectly, the carefree steps will not be the carefree steps. I'm afraid that the hope of reaching the Desheng realm will be very small. After saying this, Dongli Qingqing's beautiful figure appeared in front of him. Yes. Du Xiaofu nodded as if he understood. Then, looking at the exquisite figure, he sped up to catch up with her. Walking side by side, he said, "Are we really going to deal with that marquis-rank demonic beast? This is the goal that my master set for me." Dongli Qingqing said. "Actually, I still don't know what a marquis-rank demonic beast is." Du Xiaofu's face was a bit awkward. Dongli Qingqing's glass-like eyes also rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. Then, she said, "A marquis-rank demonic beast is a demonic beast that has 1 foot in the Beast Lord realm. The one we are going to deal with right now is a demonic beast that has already reached the peak of the perfect pulse spirit realm. It has 1 foot in the Beast Lord realm, the Scarlet Black Flame Bull." Scarlet Black Flame Bull. Hearing this, although Du Xiaofu already knew that he and Dongli Qingqing were going to deal with a marquis-rank demonic beast, when he heard that it was a Scarlet Black Flame Bull, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Scarlet Black Flame Bull was a demonic beast that was absolutely at the top of the Earth Beast ranking. It was said that it had the chance to evolve into the Heavenly Beast ranking. Its strength was absolutely terrifying. It could be said that a marquis-rank Scarlet Black Flame Bull was something that even a true Martial Lord realm cultivator would find difficult to deal with. Coo. After Du Xiaofu sucked in a breath of cold air, he cast a sideways glance at Dongli Qingqing and asked, "Then, how confident are you in dealing with the marquis-rank Scarlet Black Flame Bull?" "Not at all." Dongli Qingqing slowly walked forward. She did not stop and continued walking forward. "No way. Don't scare me. If you don't have any confidence, why are you still going to deal with it?" Du Xiaofu quickly caught up and looked at Dongli Qingqing shoulder to shoulder with her in shock. He was already completely depressed in his heart. He didn't think that this fairy-like woman would do things in such an inconceivable manner. She was simply looking for a beating. "It's not that I don't have a chance. That Scarlet Black Flame Bull is about to give birth. I will wait here for it to give birth before I make my move. The time it gives birth is also the time when it is at its weakest. When I make my move, I will have a 50% chance." Dongli Qingqing said. "Only a 50% chance." Du Xiaofu softly sighed. Whether it was a monster beast or a cultivator, the time of giving birth was indeed the weakest time. However, there was only a 50% chance. This was equivalent to a very slim chance. If she were to fail, the consequences would be unimaginable. Du Xiaofu's heart palpitated at the thought of having to deal with a marquis-rank Scarlet Black Flame Bull. He suddenly paused and asked, "You said that the Scarlet Black Flame Bull is female? Did I say that the Scarlet Black Flame Bull is male?" Dongli Qingqing rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. This guy was actually interested in whether the Scarlet Black Flame Bull was male or female. The Scarlet Black Flame Bull is giving birth. If we go and kill it, wouldn't it be a little cruel? Du Xiaofu asked. Who said we're going to kill the Scarlet Black Flame Bull? Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu. This guy was merciless when he attacked the people of the Black Fiend sect. Who would have thought that he would be concerned about the Scarlet Black Flame Bull at this time? Then why are we going to deal with the Scarlet Black Flame Bull? Could it be that we want the Scarlet Black Flame Bull's bones or blood essence? Du Xiaofu asked doubtfully. Perhaps it was because he cultivated the cultivation method of the golden-winged Great Pen clan, but he did not feel any repulsion towards monster beasts in his heart. Normally, Du Xiaofu would not have any objections to dealing with a Scarlet Black Flame Bull, whether it was for the bones or blood essence. The strong preyed on the weak and survival of the fittest was an unchanging law. However, Du Xiaofu could not bear to do so during this special period of giving birth. The scarlet black flame bull's bones and blood essence are priceless. However, they are far from the level of the purple flame demonic phoenix. The current me is also not very interested. Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu, her eyebrows slightly raised on her delicate face. Then, she continued to walk forward and said, "The most important reason why Master allowed me to come to the dark forest to train is to obtain the black flame spirit ginseng. It will be useful when I break through to the martial lord stage. However, the black flame spirit ginseng is guarded by the scarlet black flame bull. If the newborn scarlet black flame bull can consume the black flame spirit ginseng, it will have an 80% chance of evolving into the ancient scarlet black flame bull on the heavenly beast ranking. The scarlet black flame bull wants to leave the black flame spirit ginseng for its newborn. Therefore, if I want to obtain the black flame spirit ginseng, I must defeat the scarlet black flame bull." "I see." Du Xiaofu chuckled. He had thought that Dongli Qingqing wanted to kill the scarlet black flame bull while it was in labor. "There is still time if you leave now. If we continue forward, we will reach our destination. I'm afraid that once we begin, it will be too late for you to leave." Suddenly, Dongli Qingqing halted her footsteps and slightly turned around. Her beautiful jade-like eyes looked at Du Xiaofu as she said, "There should be no one from the Black Fiend sect nearby. You will be safe if you leave now." Du Xiaofu lifted his gaze and looked at the fairy-like girl before him as he said, "Forget it. Since we are already here, let's see just how powerful a pseudo-marquis scarlet black flame bull is." After speaking, the long sleeves of his purple robe slightly swept behind him. Du Xiaofu took the lead and walked forward. Immediately, his back appeared extremely tall and straight. "You're going the wrong way. You should go this way," Dongli Qingqing softly said as she looked at Du Xiaofu's back. Then, she turned around and walked towards a canyon on the right. "Ah!" Du Xiaofu turned around. The corners of his eyes involuntarily twitched. He helplessly turned around and followed her. After walking out of the canyon, they saw a continuous chain of mountain peaks. Numerous tall peaks pierced through the clouds. At a glance, it seemed as if there was no peak. Occasionally, there would be verdant greenery. Numerous mountain peaks stood tall and straight. Strange rocks were lofty, and deep ravines crisscrossed. "Restrain your aura. The cave of the scarlet black flame bull is just ahead. We will attack when it is in labor." Outside the canyon, Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. The expression on her delicate face gradually became serious. However, she still continued to walk forward. However, her speed was already extremely slow. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu did his best to restrain his aura so that it would not leak out. He looked ahead and immediately felt that there were energy fluctuations in the surrounding heaven and earth. It was as if the energy of heaven and earth was gathering towards a certain space. Chapter 170. Dongli Qingqing also felt the change in the surrounding energy. She slightly lifted her head and said, "The scarlet black flaming bull has already begun to give birth. We have arrived just in time." Swoosh! As her voice faded, Dongli Qingqing's feet suddenly sped up and swiftly disappeared from Du Xiaofu's side. "Wait for me." As he thought about how they were about to deal with the marquis-level scarlet black flaming bull, Du Xiaofu's heart tightened and he immediately chased after her. After a short while, Du Xiaofu's vision caught sight of a misty giant peak in the distance. There were also dozens of small stone peaks clustered around it. Upon closer inspection, the surrounding mountain peaks were all tinged with a dark red color. The dark red color was like metal, solemn and dignified. There was even a wispy mist on top of the mountain peaks. The surrounding exposed cliffs and steep rocks were also a dark red color, appearing exceptionally serene. Could it be there? Du Xiaofu's gaze suddenly focused on the largest misty giant peak. At the foot of the giant peak, in the middle of countless dark red rocks, there was a giant cave entrance that was no less than 100 feet in diameter. At this moment, the surrounding energy undulations were also sweeping towards the giant cave in trance. Wait for me here. Be careful. If you see the scarlet-black flaming bull chasing after me, enter the scarlet-black flaming spirit ginseng in the scarlet-black flaming bull's cave. Then, hide at the place where we rested last night. Don't worry about me, I have my own ways of escaping. When the time comes, I will look for you. As Dongli Qingqing's voice faded, a green glow swept out from under her feet. Her figure immediately swept towards the giant cave entrance like a ray of light. After a few flashes, she directly entered the cave. Time slowly passed. Although not much time had passed, the atmosphere was inexplicably tense. It made Du Xiaofu feel as if each day was like a year. His heart was constantly worried for Dongli Qingqing. She'll be fine, right? This woman is really strong. Du Xiaofu's gaze was tightly glued to the front, his heart in his throat. A marquee-level scarlet-black flaming bull was definitely a terrifying existence. Moo! Just as Du Xiaofu was worrying, a thunderous roar suddenly came from the cave in front of him. It reverberated like thunder in the mountains, shaking many of the mountain peaks and causing many rocks to fall down. The echoes rolled endlessly, and in the distance, fierce birds and beasts cried out and crawled. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the entire misty mountain in front of them began to tremble. The rocks at the entrance of the cave rumbled and fell, and the ground shook as if there was an earthquake. So! Du Xiaofu's heart suddenly rose to his throat as several rocks fell from the cave's entrance. After which, a green figure rushed out of the cave and directly soared into the sky. It was Dongli Qingqing, who had just entered the cave not long ago. Boom! However, behind Dongli Qingqing, a crimson-black stream of light trailed behind her. Then, it suddenly transformed into a huge monster in the air and appeared in front of Du Xiaofu's gaze. A terrifying aura spread across the sky, making it difficult to breathe and obstructing the profound qi in one's body. Du Xiaofu raised his head to look at the huge monster, and his expression changed greatly. At first glance, the huge monster was at least 100 feet in size. Its size was several times larger than the king-scaled demonic tiger. Its entire body was crimson black, and there were faint black flames spreading around it. The surface of its body was also rippling with runes. The demonic bull's 4 gigantic legs towered in the sky, suffused with black flames. On its pair of crescent-shaped horns, mysterious runes flickered. Its aura was terrifying. Is this the Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull? Looking at the huge monster in the air, Du Xiaofu could feel that although this big fellow was not as powerful as the lightning demonic lion at its peak, it was definitely extremely terrifying. An ordinary Meridian Spirit stage cultivator would probably feel their legs go soft when facing this huge monster. Moo! When the Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull appeared, its roar was like thunder. As the sound wave spread, the energy around its huge body chaotically fluctuated. The runes on its body flickered and flames jumped. Like a meteorite, it charged straight towards Dongli Qingqing, as if it had a deep hatred for her. As the Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull pounced, a terrifying gale swept out like a storm, causing Dongli Qingqing's eyebrows to tightly knit together. Green light flickered under her feet as her figure swept through the air and suddenly retreated. It was as if she did not dare to resist at all. At the same time, she loudly shouted, Du Xiaofu, run! However, before Dongli Qingqing could finish her words, the huge Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull had caught up to her. The mysterious runes on its horns flickered, transforming into a huge energy light pillar as it swept out. Dongli Qingqing was unable to speak. Her expression was grave as her slender hands quickly formed a hand seal. Then, she tightly gripped the bow in her hand and pulled it up. The mysterious runes on the bow surged and a rune energy arrow appeared. It directly shot out and collided with the energy light pillar on the horn of the Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull. Bang! The two energies collided and suddenly exploded in the air. A huge energy wave spread out and swept out in all directions, as if it wanted to shatter the space. Dang dang! Under such a huge force, Dongli Qingqing's delicate body actually staggered backwards. It was obvious that she was at a disadvantage. Boom! The Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull roared once again and attacked Dongli Qingqing with extreme fury. Dongli Qingqing's expression was grave. She had no choice but to exchange blows with the huge creature. Not long after, a rune energy sword flew out from the bow in her hand. Telling me to run should be to remind me to go to the cave to pluck the black flame spirit ginseng. The pseudo-marquis Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull already has intelligence. Naturally, it cannot directly reveal its purpose. Du Xiaofu was dumbfounded as he watched the astonishing exchange in the air. Only now did he know that Dongli Qingqing's strength had actually reached such a level. Dongli Qingqing was about the same age as him, yet her strength was already so strong. This immediately caused Du Xiaofu to feel somewhat defeated. It seemed that his strength was still far from enough. Pluck the black flame spirit ginseng. Du Xiaofu remembered what Dongli Qingqing had said earlier. Immediately, he carefully made his way through the cracks in the rocks, intending to avoid the Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull's line of sight. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Muffled sounds continuously rang out in the air as he finally neared the enormous cave. Finally, profound energy surged beneath his feet as Du Xiaofu immediately dove in. He wanted to use the fastest speed possible to pluck the black flame spirit ginseng that the Scarlet Crow Flaming Bull was guarding. The enormous cave was surrounded by thick rock walls. Astonishing energy undulations could be felt, and there was even the faint scent of spirit medicine. Du Xiaofu guessed that it was the scent of the black flame spirit ginseng. Without any time to size up the cave, Du Xiaofu hurriedly rushed into the cave. A moment later, the area inside the cave suddenly narrowed, and the passage suddenly opened up. Immediately, an extremely large cave in the mountain appeared before his eyes. A wave of astonishing spirit medicine energy undulations also appeared in Du Xiaofu's mental energy undulations. This caused Du Xiaofu's gaze to feel the spirit medicine energy undulations. Immediately, his gaze landed on a crack in the rock wall within the cave. Du Xiaofu looked at the crack in the stone wall. He didn't know why, but world energy was seeping out, lingering around 2 stalks of emerald green grass. They had several leaves, and they were as green as jade. Their surfaces were shining brightly, and they were only about a foot tall. A rich energy mist rippled out from them, and a rich fragrance assailed his nostrils. Is this the black flame spirit ginseng? Why are there 2 stalks? Du Xiaofu's eyes lit up. Perhaps it was because he had become accustomed to eating spirit medicine after practicing the golden-winged Great Peng's cultivation method. At this moment, when he saw the spirit medicine, he couldn't help but drool from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't wait to pull out the black flame spirit ginseng and eat it. He thought that it would definitely increase his cultivation by quite a bit. Let's pull it out first. Wiping the drool from the corner of his mouth, Du Xiaofu immediately rushed towards the spirit medicine in the crack in the rock wall. At this moment, there were only spirit medicines in his eyes. With a few large strides, Du Xiaofu arrived in front of the rock wall. He grabbed the 2 spirit medicines and directly pulled them out. Accompanied by a bright light, the 2 radish-sized spirit ginseng were pulled out by Du Xiaofu. The 2 spirit ginseng were completely dark red and emitted a dark red light. They were like beautiful jade and their bodies flowed with a holy light. A fragrance that caused one's mind to ripple spread out. The light flowing around them was not the slightest bit inferior to that of the golden plum. This is the black flame spirit ginseng. I got it. Du Xiaofu's heart was filled with joy. He forcefully resisted the urge to eat the 2 black flame spirit ginseng and immediately stuffed them into his clothes. Then, he planned to immediately retreat. Moo! Suddenly, at this moment, a roar came from the cave, shaking the whole cave with rustling sounds. Du Xiaofu's heart was instantly alarmed. He lifted his gaze, and an enormous scarlet black flaming bull that was 10 feet tall and several feet long appeared in his line of sight. Its enormous body directly blocked the exit of the cave, and an astonishing aura undulated. Not good, the scarlet black flame bull is back. In a short moment, Du Xiaofu seemed to regain his senses as his mind trembled in shock. However, a puzzled look immediately appeared in Du Xiaofu's eyes as he stared at the enormous scarlet-black flame bowl in front of him. He could feel the astonishing aura on its body. Although the aura was terrifying, it was clearly different from the aura he felt outside. The aura outside was clearly much more powerful. At this moment, although the aura on the scarlet-black flame bull's body was powerful, it also revealed a certain weakness. Moo! Another beast roar sounded out. The sound was like that of a newborn baby crying out for food. It was deep and vigorous, causing those who heard it to feel an indescribable joy of being reborn. Upon hearing this, Du Xiaofu's gaze once again turned to look. Just below the several feet large scarlet-black flame bull's body, a newborn scarlet-black flame bull appeared in Du Xiaofu's line of sight. It was clearly a newborn and could not even stand up. Its eyes were hazily opened as it cried out for food. This. Not good, it's not the same scarlet-black flame bull. There are two big ones. Du Xiaofu seemed to have suddenly understood something. The scarlet-black flame bull that was fighting with Dongli Qingqing outside and the big one in front of him were not the same one. There had always been two big scarlet-black flame bulls in this cave. At this moment, Du Xiaofu also suddenly understood that Dongli Qingqing was not reminding him to come and pick the black flame spirit ginseng. Instead, she was really telling him to quickly escape. Moreover, he was nervous and a little excited when he went, and then he excitedly fell into the cave. 3:30 in the morning, I continued to complete the 5th update. Today is the last day. Brothers and sisters who still have fresh flowers, remember to submit them. Otherwise, they will expire tomorrow. Little Yu worked hard to write and thank everyone. In addition, if Little Yu does not update at noon tomorrow, he must have woken up late. The update will probably be delayed by 2 hours. I can only continue to work hard tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to sleep first. I'm too tired to take it anymore. Chapter 171. Moo! The scarlet-black flaming bull bellowed, its gong-like eyes seeming to emit black flames as it stared fixedly at Du Xiaofu. A ferocious aura erupted from it. Although it was weak, that terrifying aura was enough to make Du Xiaofu's heart skip a beat. The profound energy in his body was blocked, making it difficult for him to breathe. Boom! Step by step, the scarlet-black flaming bull slowly approached Du Xiaofu. Waves of terrifying, fiery aura pressed down on him. Just that ferocious and terrifying aura alone was enough to make Du Xiaofu's body tremble involuntarily. What a powerful aura! Du Xiaofu's gaze trembled. Immediately after, he activated the cultivation method of the golden-winged rock within his body. Mysterious runes flashed all over his skin. In an instant, a tyrannical and terrifying aura erupted from his body like a torrent. Golden light shot up into the sky. Within the golden light, there seemed to be a golden-winged rock faintly flapping its wings. Moo! As the golden rock's aura erupted, the scarlet-black flaming bull's gong-like eyes trembled. Its huge body suddenly stopped, and its gaze of shock, fear, and confusion fell on Du Xiaofu's body, faintly tinged with fear. I know that the black flame spirit ginseng is of great use to your child, but this black flame spirit ginseng is also useful to my friend. Why don't we make a deal? Du Xiaofu saw that the golden rock's aura had already intimidated the scarlet-black flaming bull. His gaze shifted, and he immediately strode to the side of the cliff, to the side of the newborn scarlet-black flaming bull that was still unable to stand up. Moo! The scarlet-black flaming bull was eager to protect its child. It immediately bellowed, and its huge body resisted the golden rock's aura as it charged towards Du Xiaofu. Don't be nervous, I know you can understand my words. I promise I won't hurt your child. Du Xiaofu immediately said to the scarlet crow flaming bull. At this level, the scarlet crow flaming bull could already understand the human language. If it reached the Beast Lord realm, it would be able to speak the human language. However, at the same time, Du Xiaofu's golden-winged Great Peng's aura was pushed to the extreme. He immediately squatted beside the small fire bull of the black crow. If the large fire bull of the black crow made any strange movements, he could only capture the small fire bull of the black crow to threaten it. Upon hearing this, perhaps it was because of Du Xiaofu's words, the pressure of the golden-winged rock, or perhaps it was because it was wary of its cub, but the scarlet-black flaming bull's body stopped once again. However, the fire bull of the black flaming bull's eyes, which were almost emitting flames, stared intently at Du Xiaofu. It was afraid that if Du Xiaofu harmed its cub, it would charge forward regardless of the consequences. Seeing this, Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the fire bull of the black flaming bull. His gaze was extremely sincere, and he did not want the fire bull of the black flaming bull to misunderstand. He said, "Let's make a deal. The black flaming spirit ginseng is extremely beneficial to your child, but my friend also needs the black flaming spirit ginseng right now. However, the blood in my body is the blood of the golden-winged great peng. It is also extremely beneficial to you beasts, so how about I use my blood to exchange for your black flaming spirit ginseng?" The fire bull of the black flaming bull did not understand Du Xiaofu's words. It stared intently at Du Xiaofu in confusion. Moo moo, beside Du Xiaofu, the newborn fire bull of the black flaming bull continued to whine softly. It was unclear whether it was because of the aura of the golden-winged great peng on Du Xiaofu's body, or because it was hungry. Its voice was deep and forceful, but its black eyes, which contained crimson-black flames, stared curiously and suspiciously at Du Xiaofu. "Watch, I'm not lying to you." Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and took out a dagger from his chinquan bag. He then made a small cut on his palm. Immediately, pale golden blood flowed out. The mysterious glyphs within the blood pulsed faintly, and a terrifying and domineering aura emanated from it. Seeing the blood flowing out from Du Xiaofu's palm, the female fire bull of the black flaming bull's expression changed greatly. In the end, under her shocked gaze, Du Xiaofu directly dripped the large amount of pale golden blood from his palm into the mouth of the crying fire bull of the black flaming bull of the black flaming bull. Goo goo, after swallowing a few mouthfuls of pale golden blood, the flame bull little scarlet crow's entire body seemed to emit flames. In an instant, a dark red flame spread out from its body. Then, a pale golden light covered its entire body. Moo moo. In a split second, the little scarlet black flame bull seemed to be enduring an astonishing amount of pain as it immediately began to neigh. Its entire body continuously trembled as it was enveloped by the pale golden light and the scarlet black flames. Moo! The female scarlet black flaming bull's eyes were filled with worry. Her expression instantly became tense as her gaze landed on the young scarlet black flaming bull. "Alright, we've made a deal. I'll take my leave first." When Du Xiaofu saw this, pale golden profound energy surged in the center of his palm. His hand that had just been cut was immediately healed without a scratch. Then, he stood up and directly flew out of the cave. His heart was filled with apprehension, afraid that the female scarlet crow flame bull would chase after him. However, at this moment, the female scarlet crow flame bull's attention was completely focused on its young and did not pay any attention to Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Du Xiaofu naturally did not know that if the golden-winged rock clan knew that Du Xiaofu had actually used the blood of a golden-winged rock to exchange for the black flame spirit ginseng, they would probably chase him to the ends of the earth to exterminate this wastrel. This guy did not know how precious the blood of a golden-winged rock was. He was purely using gold to exchange for stones. "It didn't chase after me, huh?" Inside the cave, Du Xiaofu felt that the scarlet crow flame bull had not chased after him. He also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, wind appeared under his feet as he increased his speed and flew out of the cave. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The astonishing sound of energy colliding in the sky seemed to continue. Du Xiaofu flew out of the cave. He did not even raise his head as he hurriedly passed through the messy pile of rocks. He had to escape far away first. A pseudo-marquis level scarlet crow flame bull was not something that he could deal with. Bang! Suddenly, in front of the rapidly escaping Du Xiaofu, a green streak of light shot down like a cannonball and fiercely smashed into the rocks. Rumble! A terrifying energy wave swept out and shattered the rocks. The streak of light rushed out and directly stabbed into the ground, creating a trench that was dozens of feet long. The storm filled the sky and rocks shot out. The ground shook as if there was an earthquake. Not good. Du Xiaofu's expression changed greatly. He immediately rushed over and saw that the figure that had crashed into the ground was Dongli Qingqing. Pfft! Dongli Qingqing struggled to stand up from the pile of rocks in an incomparably sorry state. She spat out a large mouthful of blood. Her delicate face was currently deathly pale, to the point that it was extremely frightening. How are you? Du Xiaofu rushed to Dongli Qingqing's side. Sensing the aura on Dongli Qingqing's body, he was afraid that her injuries were definitely not ordinary. Why haven't you escaped? There are 2 scarlet-black flaming bowls. This one has already reached the true Beast Lord stage. Hurry and escape. Dongli Qingqing's face was deathly pale, blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. The true Beast Lord stage. Du Xiaofu's heart was once again shocked. After which, he regained his wits and said to Dongli Qingqing, hurry and escape together. So there was still a despicable human hiding here. Go and die. Just as Du Xiaofu's voice sounded, a deep roar sounded out like thunder. The scarlet-black flaming bowl that was dozens of feet long viciously stomped down in an almost barbaric manner. Its giant pillar-like hooves were wrapped in rune-black flames as it stomped down towards Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing in a destructive manner. Hurry and escape. Dongli Qingqing's delicate face was dignified. She activated the wave-like carefree steps and grabbed Du Xiaofu's shoulder with one hand. Like lightning, they swept out and narrowly avoided the destructive stomp. Rumble. The scarlet-black flaming bull's stomp missed and directly landed on the ground. A large piece of huge rock was smashed into fine powder with a loud bang, revealing a huge pit in the ground with cracks spreading everywhere. Qi La. Although Dongli Qingqing pulled Du Xiaofu to avoid the terrifying stomp, a piece of gravel fiercely smashed into her back like a rocket, sending her delicate body flying and smashing into the ground. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Run! Du Xiaofu's expression changed greatly. He quickly ran to Dongli Qingqing's side and pulled Dongli Qingqing up to escape. Puchi! However, just as Dongli Qingqing stood up, blood spilled out of her mouth again and her aura weakened. I'll carry you. Seeing this, Du Xiaofu grabbed Dongli Qingqing by the waist and carried her in his arms. Profound energy surged under his feet as he activated the wave-like carefree steps and continued to escape. Dongli Qingqing was in Du Xiaofu's arms. She seemed to want to say something and her pale face was stunned. However, looking at Du Xiaofu's dignified face, she did not say anything in the end. Dongli Qingqing's aura was imposing. At this moment, she did not have the strength to speak. After suffering several heavy injuries, the scarlet-black flaming bull, which was at the Beast Lord realm, was not something she could contend against with her current strength. Despicable human, you want to escape with this little bit of strength? The scarlet-black flaming bull roared like thunder and a beam of energy shot out from its mouth towards Du Xiaofu. Swish! The beam of light was like a thunderbolt and accompanied by a blazing aura. It was about to hit Du Xiaofu's back. Swish! Sensing the energy fluctuation behind him, Du Xiaofu hurriedly dodged. His entire body was enveloped by a faint golden light. Relying on the profoundness of the wave-like carefree steps, he narrowly avoided the beam of energy. Bang! A violent energy explosion rang out and shattered rocks filled the sky. The terrifying energy storm swept out and caused Du Xiaofu, who was holding on to Dongli Qingqing, to stagger forward. He hurriedly staggered a few steps before stabilizing his body and continuing to escape. Despicable human, you can't escape. With a thunderous roar, the enormous scarlet-black flaming bull's body descended from the sky. Its pillar-like front hooves ruthlessly stomped down towards Du Xiaofu. The terrifying blazing energy descended from the sky like a destructive force and completely enveloped Du Xiaofu. It blocked his profound energy and made it difficult for his body to escape. Chapter 172. Careful. Dongli Qingqing was in Du Xiaofu's arms. As she looked up into the air and saw the giant bull hoof descending, her expression changed greatly. Damned bull! Du Xiaofu roared loudly. The aura of the golden-winged great rock within his body erupted like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time. The mysterious symbols on the surface of his body surged, as if a pair of golden wings had materialized on his back. His speed instantly soared, and he broke free from the blazing destructive aura of the scarlet dark flaming bull. In the blink of an eye, his body shot out of the range of the giant bull's hoof. Rumble! The bull's hoof stomped down, causing the earth to quake and the mountains to shake. Giant cracks spread out in the rocks. Crack, crack, crack. Although Du Xiaofu had once again dodged the destructive bull's hoof, the moment the hoof landed on the ground, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted and soared into the sky, sweeping over Du Xiaofu's body and sending Du Xiaofu's body flying into the air, before falling to the ground. Pfft! Under the tremendous force of the impact, even more terrifying than the attack of a pulse spirit practitioner, Du Xiaofu's body was sent flying into the air. Blood immediately spurted out of his mouth, and he fell from the sky with Dongli Qingqing in his arms. Not good. Du Xiaofu's expression changed greatly. Profound qi surged all over his body. Borrowing the momentum of the fall, he turned his body in the air and forcefully smashed his back down. His body immediately fell onto a water chestnut rock. Bang, bang, bang. Under the tremendous force of the fall, the rock cracked into pieces. Dongli Qingqing, who was in Du Xiaofu's arms, was unharmed. Only a few drops of pale golden blood stained her exquisite face. However, Du Xiaofu himself once again spurted out blood, his injuries not light. Are you okay? Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu and asked worriedly. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had fallen to the ground, causing her body to lean against Du Xiaofu's chest. The back of her head was tightly protected by his strong arms. I'm fine. Du Xiaofu had no time to care about the blood on his mouth and the injuries on his body. He quickly stood up with Dongli Qingqing in his arms. What a strange human. Why do you have the aura of my beast race? The scarlet-black flaming bull's enormous body paused for a moment, its lantern-like crimson-black eyes staring fixedly at Du Xiaofu. The terrifying aura of the faint golden light aura that had just erupted caused even it to feel fear. That kind of aura was so domineering that it felt as if it was facing a supreme king of the beast clan, almost causing it to be unable to resist. Hurry up and put me down. If you bring me along, both of us won't be able to escape. Dongli Qingqing slightly raised her head, her beautiful glass-like eyes looking at the resolute face that was close to her. At this moment, although the face was pale and the corners of his mouth were still dripping with blood, in her eyes, it was exceptionally amiable. I won't put you down. Hold on to me tightly. If we're going to leave, we'll leave together. Du Xiaofu hugged Dongli Qingqing in his arms, profound energy surging beneath his feet as he madly ran away once again. Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu, as if she was hesitating in her heart. After that, her slender arms did not hug Du Xiaofu, but instead grabbed onto the purple robes on Du Xiaofu's chest. The glass-like shadows in her eyes rippled, as if they possessed a soul-stirring power. They were very far away, but for no reason, they added a kind of emotion, as if they were bottomless. Human, you won't be able to escape. A beam of energy fiercely descended. This time, Du Xiaofu was unable to dodge in time. Runes fluctuated, and the energy beam wrapped in black flames heavily smashed into his back. Bang! With a low muffled sound, countless runes and black flames shot out, exploding on Du Xiaofu's back. Swish! Du Xiaofu's body staggered forward, blood wildly spurting from his mouth. No matter how strong Du Xiaofu's body was, it would be difficult for him to withstand such a heavy blow from a Beast Lord realm expert. After a few steps, the rocks beneath his feet turned into fine powder, and his body fell forward. Bang! However, at the last moment, Du Xiaofu once again used all his strength to twist his body, causing his back to fall to the ground. He still allowed Dongli Qingqing, who was in his arms, to remain safe and sound. Why are you doing this? Looking at the blood-stained face in front of her, Dongli Qingqing's eyes were somewhat moist. With your strength, you simply can't contend against that Scarlet Crow Flame Bull. I shouldn't have let you take the risk with me. Don't worry, I have thick skin. I'm a man, so I have to take care of more women. Du Xiaofu smiled. The corners of his mouth were full of blood, and his smile was pale and powerless. You won't be able to escape. The Scarlet Crow Flame Bull's enormous body was like a mountain as it once again soared through the sky. It immediately enveloped the two of them, and a blazing and terrifying aura swept down. I'll block it. You quickly run. Otherwise, none of us will be able to escape. Dongli Qingqing loudly shouted. She struggled to stand up straight and looked at the enormous creature in the sky. She said to Du Xiaofu in a tender voice, I saved you, and you saved me. We're even now. Don't worry about me. If you don't leave now, you're dead. Don't leave now. Die. The Scarlet Crow Flame Bull roared. Its huge hooves once again soared through the sky and ruthlessly stomped towards the two of them. The terrifying aura descended, as if it could destroy the earth. Chi! The bow once again appeared in Dongli Qingqing's hand. She spat out a mouthful of blood onto the bow. Immediately, the bow seemed to have come alive. The mysterious runes on the bow flickered, and a dazzling green light spread out like the sun. A terrifying aura, as if an ancient god had awakened from a deep slumber, suddenly erupted. Ah! As a beast lord, the Scarlet Crow Flame Bull peeked at Dongli Qingqing's awakened aura at this moment. It didn't know why, but it felt fear in its heart. Its heart faintly felt uneasy, and that feeling of unease grew stronger and stronger. Following which, its huge hooves continued to stomp down. Tai Qing Demon Subduing Arrow. Dongli Qingqing shouted. A mysterious power seemed to have awakened within her body. She pulled the bow and an arrow of light completely condensed from runes appeared. She then released the arrow. Qi La. The rune energy arrow instantly shot out. Wherever it passed, it caused a large patch of space to distort, as if space itself was about to collapse. In a short instant, the rune energy arrow pierced through space, bringing with it traces of light that faintly distorted space. In an instant, it rushed under the huge hooves of the Scarlet Crow Flame Bull and blocked that terrifying huge hooves. Caw. The terrifying energy under the huge hooves of the Scarlet Crow Flame Bull was enough to destroy everything. However, at this moment, it was actually blocked by a single arrow from Dongli Qingqing. This caused the Scarlet Crow Flame Bull to be shocked. Plop! Although it blocked that terrifying huge hooves, Dongli Qingqing opened her mouth and spat out another mouthful of blood. She seemed to have no more strength left. The rune energy arrow of light began to be corroded by the black flame runes under the huge hooves, burning and collapsing. Finally, it completely shattered and disappeared. Rumble. After the huge hooves paused for a moment, it continued to press down on Dongli Qingqing and Du Xiaofu with a terrifying aura. When this foot landed, it was likely that the two of them would be trampled into meat paste. As the huge hooves landed, a destructive force swept out and pressed down. Dongli Qingqing's eyes were grave. At this moment, she had no other choice. Hurry up and run. I'll stop this evil beast. In the blink of an eye, Dongli Qingqing was pushed to the ground, and a terrifying wave of destructive heat swept out. The surrounding sand and stones were sent flying, and the ground was constantly cracked. Dongli Qingqing turned her head. Her pupils suddenly shrank. In her line of sight, she saw a purple-robed man. At this moment, he was holding up that huge, pillar-like hoof with both hands. His body was wrapped in a faint golden light, making him look like a god of war. The purple-robed youth used his physical strength to forcefully hold up that huge object. However, under the huge pressure, he spat out blood from his mouth. His body slowly sank. His feet had already sunk deeply into the rocky ground. The surrounding rocks cracked and turned into dust. Hurry up and run. Du Xiaofu shouted. The profound energy in his body surged out. His internal organs shook as if they were about to explode. However, at this moment, he was still bitterly holding on. Despicable human. You're courting death. I'll trample you into pieces. The scarlet-black flame bull roared. However, its eyes were filled with incomparable shock. A puny human was actually able to resist its foot. The domineering aura that erupted from his body faintly caused it to tremble in fear. Bull, you're not strong enough. So what if you're in the Beast Lord realm? I've seen Beast King realm experts. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Du Xiaofu shouted. Even though his feet had sunk, his body was still standing straight. Looking at the purple-robed youth in front of her, Dongli Qingqing was silent for a moment. Then, she struggled to get up. Her eyes were filled with tears. Her eyes were moist. Then, her delicate body slowly walked towards Du Xiaofu. When the huge hoof landed, it was already above her head. She lifted up both of her hands towards the huge hoof. Why aren't you leaving? Hurry up and run. I can't hold on any longer. Du Xiaofu shouted. He was the clearest about the situation in his body. He could no longer hold on. Dongli Qingqing lifted up the huge hoof. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Following the collapse of the huge force, both of her feet sunk into the ground. She looked at Du Xiaofu with a smile on her lips. She pursed her red lips. Her voice was still clear as she faintly said, I'm not leaving. I'll stay with you. I never thought that we would die under this bull's foot. I never thought that it would be with you. Du Xiaofu said. The corner of his bloody mouth curved into a bitter smile. Pucci. Then, under the burning power of the black runes, blood flowed from both of their mouths at the same time. Ka. The golden runes on Du Xiaofu's body also began to show signs of crumbling. Finally, he could no longer resist. In the end, he felt dizzy. Then, the vision of both of them turned black. Both of them fainted and fell to the ground. Boom! The huge hoof landed easily. The terrifying aura collapsed and directly stepped on the bodies of both of them. When the huge hoof landed, the bodies of both of them looked slender. Chapter 173. Qi. Suddenly, a layer of purple flames began to flicker on the surface of Du Xiaofu's skin, as if about to erupt at any moment. Moo! Just at this moment, a roar sounded from nearby. Just as the scarlet-black flame bull's hooves were about to trample Du Xiaofu's duo into pieces, it suddenly paused in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the purple flames that were about to erupt from Du Xiaofu's body abruptly disappeared into his body. Qi! A streak of scarlet-black light appeared beside the scarlet-black flame bull like lightning. It was the other female scarlet-black flame bull. She looked at the Beast Lord stage scarlet-black flame bull and let out a low neigh, as if saying something. At the same time, she pushed the scarlet-black flame bull's massive hooves away. Tisk. When Du Xiaofu regained consciousness, he felt something wet continuously licking his face. Am I dead? Startled, Du Xiaofu immediately opened his eyes. A small scarlet-black flame bull came into view, its little tongue licking his face. Moo. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had regained consciousness, the small scarlet-black flame bull stared straight at Du Xiaofu. When its eyes met with Du Xiaofu's, some curiosity flashed in its eyes. Then, it intimately burrowed into Du Xiaofu's embrace. It's that small scarlet-black flame bull. Am I not dead? Du Xiaofu was stunned. He blinked a few times and immediately struggled to sit up. However, his entire body was powerless, as if it had completely fallen apart. He could not muster even the slightest bit of strength. Your injuries are too serious, it's best if you don't move around. The familiar voice caused Du Xiaofu to be stunned. The worry in his heart was also put down. After which, he was gently helped to sit up. An exquisite elf-like face appeared in front of him. Her complexion was extremely pale, but she had already recovered some of her rosy complexion. It was Dongli Qingqing. Moo moo. The little scarlet crow flame bull kept snuggling intimately into Du Xiaofu's bosom. Its tongue kept licking Du Xiaofu's face. What's going on? Du Xiaofu stared at Dongli Qingqing's face, then looked around. At this moment, they were in the cave of the flaming scarlet crow bulls, but the two large flaming scarlet crow bulls were nowhere to be seen. You have been unconscious for 3 days. Because my clan has some special methods and talents, I seem to have recovered faster than you, so I woke up yesterday. However, you woke up very quickly. If it was an ordinary person, it would be difficult for them to wake up without 1 or 2 months. Dongli Qingqing explained to Du Xiaofu. Qi Yan and Yan Qi went out to look for elixirs. Scarlet Rock broke through to the Xiantian level when she was born, so she needed to find some elixirs to build her foundation. Qi Yan, Yan Qi, Scarlet Rock. Du Xiaofu's mind was suddenly confused. He was completely confused. Dongli Qingqing smiled at Du Xiaofu. Although her complexion was quite pale, she was still graceful. She looked at the little scarlet crow flame bull and said to Du Xiaofu, "This little guy's father is called Yan Qi, and his mother is called Qi Yan. This little guy has already been named Scarlet Rock. It turns out that during the most dangerous time, it was this little guy's mother who came out to save you and me. I also learned all of this from Yan Qi after I woke up yesterday. Let me think about it." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's mind gradually became less chaotic. He gently stroked the little scarlet crow flame bull that was intimately burrowing into his arms. He asked Dongli Qingqing, "In other words, this little guy's name is Scarlet Rock?" Moo moo. The little scarlet crow flame bull thought that Du Xiaofu was calling it. The pair of little horns on its head immediately made a sound. It raised its head and stared at Du Xiaofu with a pair of scarlet black eyes. Its expression was adorable. The aura on this little guy's body seems to have changed a bit. Du Xiaofu felt that the aura on the little scarlet crow flame bull's body seemed to have changed a lot compared to when it was born. Its eyes, which were originally filled with scarlet black flames, now seemed to have a faint golden color. Du Xiaofu could feel that this aura was somewhat similar to his own. That's right, this little guy's name is Scarlet Rock because it's related to you. It's also because of this that we're still alive. Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. Related to me, could it be? Du Xiaofu's eyebrows twitched slightly. In addition, he could feel the aura on the little scarlet crow flame bull's body. He instantly guessed that it was related to the fresh blood that he had fed the little scarlet crow flame bull. Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu with curiosity in her beautiful eyes. She said, "No wonder I always felt that the aura of your cultivation method was somewhat familiar. So it's related to the golden winged rock. The blood on your body is almost the same as the golden winged rocks." Du Xiaofu smiled and gently stroked the little scarlet crow flame bull's horns. He said to Dongli Qingqing, "That's right, it is indeed related to the golden winged rock." "Is it related to the golden winged rock in the Savage Beast Mountain Range?" Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu curiously and asked, "Didn't the golden winged rock and the purple flame demonic phoenix both self-destruct?" "Actually, I don't know what's going on either. I haven't found the answer until now." Du Xiaofu didn't hide anything from Dongli Qingqing. Up until now, he really didn't know what was going on either. This is really unbelievable. I'm afraid that even Master wouldn't believe it. Dongli Qingqing said and didn't ask any more questions. This little guy broke through to the Xiantian realm. Du Xiaofu felt the aura on the little scarlet crow flame bull's body and was quite surprised. To be able to break through to the Xiantian realm as soon as it was born, could this be a special technique of the scarlet crow flame bull? This matter is also related to you. According to Embermane, because this little guy swallowed your blood, many strange things happened. It even has the aura of the golden winged rock on its body. That's why it was named Scarlet Rock. Dongli Qingqing continued to speak to Du Xiaofu, "The blood of the golden winged rock is extremely precious to other demonic beasts. Because of you, this little guy suffered when it was born. However, it also underwent a metamorphosis as soon as it was born and directly broke through to the Xiantian realm. Among the demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking, only the demonic beasts ranked at the top can break through to the Xiantian realm as soon as they are born. Therefore, Embermane and Qi Yen felt indebted to you and said that they didn't care about the black flame spirit ginseng. We are still alive now. So that's how it is. Du Xiaofu smiled. He had a general understanding of the situation. He stroked the little scarlet crow flame bull in his arms and said, "So it's related to me. No wonder you are so close to me. I don't know if you can compare to the demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking in the future." Moo moo. Qi Ping seemed to have sensed that Du Xiaofu was talking to it. Immediately, it let out a moo moo sound. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu remembered the matter of the black flame spirit ginseng. He fumbled around in his arms and said, "You mentioned the black flame spirit ginseng. I just remembered that I obtained the black flame spirit ginseng. However, why are there two of them?" As his voice fell, Du Xiaofu fished out a black flame spirit ginseng with leaves and handed it to Dongli Qingqing. It was about the size of a radish and its entire body was emitting a crimson-black brilliance. It was like a beautiful jade that flowed with a pure and holy radiance. A refreshing fragrance that caused ripples in one's heart spread out as it flowed with multicolored light. The numerous emerald green leaves were like emerald jade as they shone brilliantly and emitted a rich energy mist. A rich fragrance assailed the nostrils. It was likely that these leaves were extremely valuable and their medicinal properties were astonishing. I know that there are two of them. The black flame spirit ginseng usually grows in pairs. It is difficult for a single black flame spirit ginseng to grow. I originally intended to give you one of these black flame spirit ginseng. Perhaps it will be useful when you break through to the martial lord stage. Dongli Qingqing received the black flame spirit ginseng from Du Xiaofu's hands as a smile appeared in her beautiful eyes. That's impossible. What's going on? It was unknown whether Du Xiaofu had heard Dongli Qingqing's words as he continued to fumble around in his arms with a puzzled expression on his face. On the other hand, the little scarlet flame bull's gaze was currently attracted by the black flame spirit ginseng in Dongli Qingqing's hands. As if it had felt the fluctuations of an elixir, its saliva was about to flow out as it wanted to take a bite. What are you looking for? Upon seeing this, Dongli Qingqing's eyebrows slightly twitched as she asked Du Xiaofu. There's another black flame spirit ginseng missing. Du Xiaofu took out everything in his arms. There were quite a few qiankuan bags and the mountain-like stone. Apart from that, there was nothing else. Could it have fallen off? Dongli Qingqing asked Du Xiaofu. The black flame spirit ginseng was only the size of a small radish and could be held in one hand. It was very normal for it to have fallen off when one was careless. It was very likely that it had fallen off during the fierce battle with Yan Qi. It's impossible for it to have fallen off. Du Xiaofu was very certain that he had been especially afraid of dropping it. Therefore, he had kept it tightly in a small pocket within his purple robes. If it had fallen off, all the qiankuan bags on his body would have long fallen off, not to mention the black flame spirit ginseng that had not fallen off. Then you should look for it again. Dongli Qingqing said. Then, her eyes suddenly fell on the mountain-like stone that Du Xiaofu had just taken out. How could it not be? Du Xiaofu turned his body over and almost stripped naked, but he still could not find the remaining black flame spirit ginseng. Are you sure the other black flame spirit ginseng won't fall off? Dongli Qingqing suddenly asked Du Xiaofu with a serious expression. It shouldn't. Du Xiaofu nodded, but his gaze was extremely doubtful. He really did not have the other black flame spirit ginseng on him. Could it be that he had really lost it? Chapter 174. Dongli Qingqing's gaze landed on the bronze mountain peak rock that had landed calmly in front of Du Xiaofu. Her brows twitched slightly as she said softly, "If my guess is correct, the black flame spirit ginseng was eaten by it." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's gaze immediately fell upon the mountain peak rock in confusion. That's right, that's it. The black flame spirit ginseng should have been eaten by it. Dongli Qingqing nodded. This rock ate a spiritual medicine? Du Xiaofu was puzzled. No matter how hard he tried, he could not understand how a rock, no matter how hard it was, could eat his black flame spirit ginseng. He could not help but doubt Dongli Qingqing's words. Dongli Qingqing still nodded with certainty and said, "It's not an ordinary rock, it's a stone demon." As the two of them spoke, the little scarlet flame bull crow to the side had quieted down. It stared intently at Dongli Qingqing's side, curling its tongue and secretly nibbling at the spirit leaves on the black flame spirit ginseng in Dongli Qingqing's hand, saliva overflowing from its mouth. What is a stone demon? Du Xiaofu held the mountain peak rock in his palm, deep in thought. Could it be that this hard rock really had an extraordinary origin? Otherwise, how could his vain spirit be the same as it? At this moment, as he held the mountain peak rock in his palm, Du Xiaofu could faintly feel that there was an inexplicable connection between him and the hard rock in his hand. This feeling was extremely mysterious, so mysterious that it was indescribable and could only be understood. Everything in the world has a spirit. There are humans, beasts, and other spiritual races. However, among them, there is the most peculiar and powerful race, the Yao race. The demonic race, when gathered, takes shape. When scattered, it becomes nothing. The essence of the qi depends on the object, the qi is chaotic in the middle, the object changes outside, the form, the spirit, the qi, the quality, the use of the exterior and the interior. It originates from the 5 elements, and passes through the 5 elements. Dongli Qingqing paused for a moment before continuing to talk to Du Xiaofu. The demonic race, whether it is a ghost, or a god, or a demon, or a fox's charm, or a yin flame, or a divine light, or a strange grass, or a strange wood, all of them are psychic, not strange. As for the explanation, it may be that the cloud does not think, or it may be that the cloud is abnormal, but it is only because all living things in the world have spirits. The demon clan. Du Xiaofu murmured in disbelief. The demonic race can all grow to an extremely terrifying level. It is said that even the weakest demonic race can compare to the demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking. You do not know this now because your cultivation is not strong enough. In the future, when you become stronger and come into contact with more of the secrets of this world, you will know that this world is far more vast than we can imagine. Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. Is this rock really a demonic stone? Du Xiaofu held the mountain rock in his hand and tossed it up and down. Suddenly, he threw it directly at the rock wall with great force. Caw. The mountain rock made cracking sounds as it hit the rock wall, and many pieces of rock fell down. The mountain rock also fell down, but there was still no reaction. It was no different from a normal rock, except for the bronze color that was slightly different from normal rocks. There doesn't seem to be any reaction. Du Xiaofu looked at Dongli Qingqing in confusion. Dongli Qingqing smiled faintly, then looked at the mountain rock and said, "This stone demon is extremely hard. Its material is already a true treasure of heaven and earth. Why don't you use it to refine a spiritual weapon? It is said that a psychic stone demon can at least refine a Dao weapon." "Humph, you can't refine me at all. Don't threaten me." Just as Dongli Qingqing finished speaking, the mountain rock suddenly opened its mouth and spoke. Its voice was childish, then it rolled on the ground and kept shouting, "It hurts so much. It hurts so much." It spoke, "It really is a stone demon." Du Xiaofu was shocked. If he was not still sitting and unable to move, he would have taken 2 steps back in shock. Moo. The little scarlet rock, who was secretly eating the leaves of the black flame spirit ginseng, heard the sound. The stone that could talk immediately attracted its attention. It slightly raised its head, then its gaze fell on the rolling mountain rock. It immediately ran over and opened its mouth to bite the mountain rock. "You stupid calf, let go of me. Otherwise, I won't be polite." The mountain rock suddenly shouted with its childish voice. However, the little scarlet rock was not afraid of tigers. It simply ignored the mountain rock. It seemed to bite a few times in its mouth, and felt that it was incomparably hard and tasteless. It directly spat the mountain rock next to Du Xiaofu. then continued to run toward Dongli Qingqing, as if it still felt that the leaves of the black flame spirit ginseng were more delicious. "Little calf, I'm not done with you," the mountain rock angrily said, but its childish voice was extremely disharmonious with the tone of the atmosphere. "Little guy, you've eaten enough. I still have use for the rest." Dongli Qingqing seemed to have already discovered that the scarlet rock was secretly eating. When she saw the scarlet rock run over again, she could only put the black flame spirit ginseng back into her Qianquan bag. Moo moo. When the scarlet rock saw this, it immediately looked at Dongli Qingqing with its big, pitiful eyes. It was as if it had been wronged, as if it could melt a person's heart. "Here, eat this." Dongli Qingqing could not bear it and took out a few spiritual herbs from her Qianquan bag. Moo moo. When it felt the spiritual herb's energy fluctuations, the scarlet rock immediately rolled its tongue and directly sucked the spiritual herbs into its mouth. It was afraid that Dongli Qingqing would take them back, so it immediately ran to a corner of the rock and happily chewed on them. At this moment, Du Xiaofu also grabbed the rolling mountain peak rock in his hand. After recovering from his shock, he recalled that the black flame spirit ginseng that he had painstakingly obtained, an elixir that was not inferior to the golden middle plum, had actually been eaten by this stone demon. Immediately, anger rose in his heart as he said, "Stone demon, did you eat my black flame spirit ginseng? So what if I ate it?" On the mountain rock, there was a pair of faintly discernible eyes blinking on the mountain peak. At the bottom of the mountain, there was also a mouth that was moving. It looked extremely mysterious. Du Xiaofu was stunned. This stone demon was still so arrogant after eating his black flame spirit ginseng. How could Du Xiaofu tolerate this? It had always been him who stole other people's spiritual herbs. He did not expect that his own spiritual herb, especially the extraordinary black flame spirit ginseng, would actually be eaten by this stone. This was no different from being robbed. Du Xiaofu's expression immediately changed. "You think you're righteous? You stole my black flame spirit ginseng and you're still so arrogant? Spit it out for me." Du Xiaofu's temper flared as he continuously shook the stone in his hand. It was as if he hoped that this stone demon would really spit out the black flame spirit ginseng that it had stolen. "Shameless human, let me go!" the mountain rock screamed. "Spit out the black flame spirit ginseng and I will let you go," Du Xiaofu hatefully said. If he did not spit out the black flame spirit ginseng, he would definitely not let this stone demon go. "I already ate it, how can I spit it out? Don't even think about it." The mountain rock raised its voice and said. "Humph." Du Xiaofu's eyes darkened as he hatefully snorted and said, "You don't want to spit it out? Then I will refine you into a spiritual tool. With your strength, you want to refine your grandpa sure? Dream on." The mountain rock seemed to be completely unafraid and was not threatened at all. It arrogantly said to Du Xiaofu, "What can you do to me? You can't touch me. You!" Du Xiaofu angrily glared as he viciously threw the mountain rock in his hand. It directly slammed into the hard rock wall. Bang! The hard rock wall trembled as it directly shattered many rocks. "Shameless and despicable human, your grandpa sure is in so much pain." The mountain rock rolled on the ground as it loudly cried out in pain. It seemed to be angry as it loudly said, "At most, it will hurt a little. But you can't do anything to me. Let's see what you can do to me." Du Xiaofu was stunned. This stone demon was actually as stubborn as his big brother, Zhenqing. That's right, as he thought of his big brother, Zhenqing, the corners of Du Xiaofu's mouth curved into an evil smile. Then, a smile appeared in his eyes as he looked at the rolling mountain rock. His expression softened as he softly said, "I wonder if a stone demon can be considered an evil creature. A boy's urine can suppress evil, but I wonder if a boy's urine can do the same." As his words fell, Du Xiaofu immediately turned towards the scarlet rock, who was chewing on an elixir beside the rock wall. "Little guy, come here." Moo moo. The scarlet rock raised its head as if it understood Du Xiaofu's words. It immediately ran over. "Little guy, be good. Go give that stone demon a bath. Du Xiaofu chuckled as he stroked the scarlet rock's little horn. Moo moo. The scarlet rock raised its head. Its eyes were bright as if it didn't understand. It just intimately rubbed against Du Xiaofu's body. Du Xiaofu patiently continued to say to the scarlet rock, "Little guy, be good. Go give that stone demon a bath." Moo moo. The scarlet rock didn't really understand. It raised its head and looked at Du Xiaofu. Its eyes slightly blinked, and it was incomparably adorable. Then, it walked towards the stone demon that was rolling on the ground. Its eyes were filled with confusion and curiosity. "Little calf, don't come over. Hurry up and go away. If you dare to come over, your grandpa stone will definitely not let you go." The mountain demon was a little scared. It rolled on the ground, but its speed was not fast. Moo moo. Finally, perhaps because the little scarlet flame bull understood Du Xiaofu's words, it stood on top of the rolling rocks on the mountain peak. Then, a pool of baby bull urine poured down. "Little calf, I'm not done with you. Shameless human, I'm not done with you." The stone demon rolled and jumped on the ground. However, it still couldn't escape the fate of being bathed in urine. For a moment, it screamed and cursed endlessly. "Don't threaten me. Do you think I can't do anything to you? In the future, you'll be bathed in urine every day. If it really doesn't work, I'll put you in the latrine for a few days." Du Xiaofu smiled with satisfaction. It seemed that this method was equally effective against his big brother Zhen Qingchun and the stone demon. Chapter 175. To one side, Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu, her glassy eyes rippling. She did not know what to say, a complicated look in her eyes. It was as if she had only just found out that this guy had such a side to him, completely different from the people she had interacted with. Moo. At this moment, a neigh sounded from outside the cave. It was the sound of the scarlet crow flame bowls. Moo moo. Scarlet Rock's eyes immediately brightened when it heard this, and then it dashed out of the cave. Have they returned? Du Xiaofu's expression changed slightly. Thinking of the terrifying strength of Yan Qi, a bitter smile appeared in his eyes. This time, he had almost died under Yan Qi's feet. Boom, the ground trembled slightly, and then 2 large and 1 small scarlet crow flame bowls walked into the cave. Du Xiaofu looked at the 2 large scarlet crow flame bowls. They were Yan Qi and Qi Yan, whom he had already met. However, Yan Qi had shrunk to his normal size at this moment, but he was still extremely large. His body was 20 feet long, and the height of the 2 youths was like a small mountain. With the arrival of Yan Qi and Qi Yan, 2 invisible and terrifying auras spread out. The aura on Yan Qi's body, in particular, seemed to be able to affect the surrounding natural energy for no reason. This aura was extremely terrifying. However, Du Xiaofu had faced many strong practitioners before, and the aura on the lightning lion's body was even stronger than Yan Qi's. Therefore, after a brief moment of discomfort, his expression quickly returned to normal. "Ah! It hurts." The sound of the mountain rocks rolling once again rang out loudly from under Yan Qi's hooves, his tender voice sounding extremely miserable. This voice immediately caused Yan Qi to raise his cow hoof. He lowered his head and saw the mountain rocks rolling all over the ground. A doubtful expression surged within his gong-like eyes. He looked at the mountain rocks and his expression was quite surprised as he asked, "Is it a stone demon?" The mountain rocks rolled on the ground again, loudly saying, "Just now, that little calf bullied me. You old cow also bullied me. I will remember you. What's going on?" Yan Qi looked at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing in confusion. "It's fine. This stone demon is related to my friend," Dongli Qingqing said. Upon hearing this, Yan Qi no longer paid any attention to the rolling mountain rocks on the ground. Instead, he looked at Du Xiaofu, who had already woken up. His eyes were filled with shock as he said, "You have woken up? I did not expect your physical body to be so strong. It is likely comparable to the strongest demonic beasts." You almost stomped me into pieces. Du Xiaofu raised his head slightly to look at Embermane with a bitter expression. At this moment, he was truly unable to contend against a demonic beast expert at the Beast Lord realm. I'm really sorry. If you had said earlier that you would use the blood of the golden-winged rock to exchange for the black flame spirit ginseng, this would not have happened. It almost caused a misunderstanding. Yan Qi seemed to be a little embarrassed. His voice was very simple and honest, unlike when he was furious. This, Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing looked at each other and smiled bitterly, not knowing what to say. The two of them clearly knew that they had not planned to use the blood of the golden-winged rock to exchange for the black flame spirit ginseng. Du Xiaofu was also the clearest. When he discovered that the scarlet pheasant was blocking the exit of the cave, he had an idea and used his blood to exchange for the black flame spirit ginseng. If he told Yan Qi and the scarlet pheasant that their original intention was to snatch the black flame spirit ginseng, and that they only later found out that there were two scarlet black flame bowls and that Yan Qi was at the Beast Lord realm, then everything would have changed. Yan Qi looked at Du Xiaofu and continued, "You are not bad. You are not afraid of death for your companions. I have seen too many humans who are willing to betray their companions in order to survive." Du Xiaofu smiled faintly at Yan Qi and said, "Are you praising me?" Hearing this, Dongli Qingqing looked at Du Xiaofu beside her. Ripples appeared in her glassy eyes, but they quickly disappeared. Her eyes were still. "I am very curious. You are clearly a human, but why do your blood and aura belong to the golden-winged rock? Could it be that you were born from the union of a human and a rock? But this is almost impossible." Yan Qi's eyes were filled with doubt as he said softly, "The union of a human and a beast can be like this?" Du Xiaofu seemed to have discovered a new continent and was extremely surprised. Dongli Qingqing slightly lowered her eyes and a trace of green light flashed in her eyes. Then she said to Du Xiaofu, "When a beast clan expert reaches the Beast King realm, they can transform into a human form, no different from a human. In the boundless world, there will always be strange feelings between humans and beasts when they meet. When a beast clan expert reaches the Beast King realm, they can also transform into a human. There are many human and beast lovers. Although this kind of thing is extremely rare and is not tolerated by the beast clan, human clan, or beast clan, it does exist. However, every time such a person appears, they will be hunted down and killed by the various clans. This is too much. What does it have to do with other people when they are together? Why should they be hunted down?" Du Xiaofu was somewhat indignant. Dongli Qingqing continued, "If such a person has a descendant, they will also be hunted down by the various clans. However, if such a person is born from the union of a human and beast clan, or a human and beast clan, the descendant may be extremely weak and may easily die. However, there is another situation where the descendant is incomparably powerful from birth with terrifying talent. Once they grow up, they will be an existence that shakes the world. Will they be that strong?" Du Xiaofu was quite surprised. Of course, they will be very strong. However, it is very unlikely for such an existence to grow up. After all, the union of a human and beast clan is limited by the rules of the world. It is very difficult for them to have descendants. Even if there is, they will be rejected and suppressed by the rules of the world. Almost all of them will die prematurely. Even if they have a lot of heavenly treasures, it will be difficult for them to survive." Yan Qi said to Du Xiaofu. Then, he looked at Dongli Qingqing with a puzzled expression and said, "The aura on your body is very strange. You don't seem to be an ordinary human." "Yes, my family has some background," Dongli Qingqing said with a smile. "Moo moo." The scarlet pheasant let out a slight cry. It looked at Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qingqing with an extremely gentle gaze. It seemed to be saying something. Scarlet Rock's mother said that you are fine. You are injured, so you should recuperate here. We are leaving. Yan Qi's gaze finally fell on Du Xiaofu and said, "Scarlet Rock owes you a favor, so I named her Scarlet Rock." "I owe you a favor?" I hope that if there is a chance in the future, I will repay you. You are leaving? Where are you going? Du Xiaofu asked with a puzzled expression. This dark forest is not the territory of the Beast clan. We do not belong here. We only came here because of the Black Flame Spirit Ginseng. Now that we have found all the herbs needed to build a foundation for Scarlet Rock, it is time to go back and build a foundation for Scarlet Rock. We will meet again in the future. After Yan Qi finished speaking, he nodded to the Scarlet Pheasant and left with the little Scarlet Rock. Moo moo, the little Scarlet Rock seemed to know that it was about to leave. It looked back at Du Xiaofu from time to time, reluctant to part with him. However, when it passed by the mountain's rock, it kicked the mountain's rock back to the cliff. Little calf, I am not finished with you. The young voice of the rock continued to shout. We will meet again if fate allows, little guy. When Du Xiaofu saw the reluctance in little Scarlet Pang's eyes, he felt a little reluctant in his heart. With a gentle wave of his hand, he watched as the 3 scarlet crow flaming bowls, 2 big and 1 small, disappeared from the cave. Your injuries are very serious. You should first meditate and recover. After a moment, Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu, we must recover as soon as possible. Okay. Du Xiaofu collected his thoughts and nodded. He looked at the mountain's rock not far away and struggled to stand up and walk over. He did not care about the smell of the bull's urine and directly used a separate Qianquan bag to cover the struggling mountain's rock. Shameless human, what do you want to do? Before he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu had already put the mountain's rock into the Qianquan bag. This stone demon seems to be extraordinary. You should study it carefully. Maybe you will find something. Dongli Qingqing said to Du Xiaofu. Okay, let's meditate and meditate first. Du Xiaofu nodded slightly and said. Then, he sat cross-legged. After stuffing a lot of elixirs into his mouth, he condensed a cultivation handprint and began to adjust his breathing. After a while, a faint golden light began to fluctuate around his body and began to cover his whole body. Dongli Qingqing sat cross-legged. Her glassy eyes quietly looked at the purple-robed youth's figure that was shrouded in a faint golden light. Her eyes rippled with complicated emotions as she murmured, "Why do you want me to owe you, Qi?" After a moment, Dongli Qingqing's expression became restrained. She was like a fairy, but her temperament was refined and arrogant, otherworldly and lonely. Her delicate hands formed a hand seal and a green light spread out, enveloping the cave within 100 meters. As the two of them breathed and adjusted their breathing, the cave suddenly became silent and silent. Time slowly passed by as the two of them adjusted their breathing. The faint golden light around Du Xiaofu's body became denser and denser. He had cultivated the cultivation method of the golden-winged great peng. In addition to his powerful body, he had already reached the level of bone refining and marrow cleansing. Although his injuries were severe, they were still in the process of recovery. However, this time, Du Xiaofu's injuries were not light. It was likely that he would not be able to recover in a short period of time. If it were any other ordinary pulse realm or profound realm cultivator in his place, even 10 times would not be enough to kill him. While the two of them meditated, the silence lasted for more than a dozen hours. Then, the green light around Dongli Qingqing's body suddenly vanished. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and then she opened her eyes. Qi! After a faint green light flashed in her eyes, Dongli Qingqing silently stood up. She looked at Du Xiaofu, who was meditating and recovering from his injuries. Then, she silently flew out of the cave. Brothers, it's time to update. Originally, it was supposed to be updated at 12, but for some reason, the Fresh Flower leaderboard hasn't refreshed yet. I've been waiting, but it still hasn't refreshed yet. So, I decided to release it first. I'm afraid that if I don't release it soon, brothers will come after me. The system's Fresh Flower leaderboard hasn't refreshed yet, so brothers, please don't throw in any fresh flowers for now. After you throw in fresh flowers, it will be reset to 0. After it refreshes, everyone can throw in more. Little you, continue to work hard at writing. Chapter 176. It was early in the morning outside the cave. Stone peaks were clustered together, dark red like iron, solemn and dignified. Mist drifted within the mountain range. The surrounding exposed rock walls and precipitous rocks were all covered in a continuous scarlet-black color, appearing extremely quiet and secluded. However, many places were in a mess, proving that an extremely intense battle had occurred here not long ago. On a mountain peak, a slightly hunched figure stood silently. His long hair was combed into a high bun, with some white mottled hair. From the back, this person was probably quite old. Chi! A beautiful figure flew out of the cave. Her entire body was wrapped in a green light. After that, she landed on a nearby mountain peak. The light receded, revealing the beautiful figure, her face still pale. It was Dongli Qingqing. Master. Dongli Qingqing's beautiful figure moved lightly, arriving behind the slightly hunched figure with mottled white hair. How are your injuries? A rather sharp voice rang out, causing one to feel uncomfortable. The figure slowly turned around. It was an old woman in her 50s, her face looking a little old. If Du Xiaofu were here, he would definitely recognize this old woman as the one he had seen in the Savage Beast mountain range. She was also Dongli Qingqing's master, and had even fought with the beautiful woman who had come to find Fuibai. My injuries are roughly the same. Could it be that master has been here for a long time? Dongli Qingqing looked at her master, her eyes filled with doubt. Her entire being emitted a faint spiritual energy, like a spirit from the depths of the forest. You've been here for a few days. Come with me, it's time to go back. The old woman looked at Dongli Qingqing and said. Master, I. Hearing this, Dongli Qingqing secretly looked towards the cave below. The old woman seemed to know everything. Looking at Dongli Qingqing, she asked, could it be that you can't let go of that brat? Dongli Qingqing was a little afraid to meet her master's gaze. Opening her pearly white teeth, she said, Master, he saved me before. Right now, his injuries are quite serious. You also saved him before. You don't owe that brat anything, said the old woman. Her expression and aura made it hard for others to resist. Dongli Qingqing raised her head slightly and said, Master, I saved him because it was convenient. He saved me twice because he knew that his life was in danger, so this is different. So, you gave your clan's carefree rippling steps to that brat and wanted to give him a black flame spirit ginseng. The old woman seemed to know everything. On the towering mountain peak, there were a few strands of milky white mist. In the mist, on Dongli Qingqing's fairy-like face, there was a flash of light in her glassy eyes. It was hard to fathom. Then her eyes moved slightly, and her thin lips curled up slightly. She said to the old woman, Master, I didn't want to owe him, but I didn't expect that I would owe him again. Qing'er, this is not the reason why I asked you to come to the dark forest. As the old woman's voice faded, it caused the surrounding space to tremble. Her expression became a little more severe as she said, I shouldn't have let you come here. This is my mistake. Now, come back with me. Master. Dongli Qingqing seemed to want to say something. The old woman interrupted Dongli Qingqing's words. Her gaze was tightly fixed on Dongli Qingqing as she asked, Qing, could it be that you have taken a liking to that brat? Hearing this, Dongli Qingqing's heart trembled. She lowered her eyes and a trace of light flashed in her eyes. Then, she said, Disciple doesn't. That's for the best. The old woman looked at Dongli Qingqing. Her fierce gaze swept across her as she said, You should know what kind of responsibility you bear. Come back with me. Don't tell me you want me to kill that brat. Master, don't. Dongli Qingqing's heart trembled. She naturally knew her master's temper. Swoosh swoosh. Below the mountain peak, a dozen figures flashed. After a few flashes, they appeared in a messy pile of rocks. These dozen people were all dressed in black. Their auras were not weak, and at least 4 of them were at the pulse spirit stage. Protector Min, it's the cave in front. When I unintentionally passed by this place 4 months ago, I felt the aura of a spiritual medicine inside. It should not be an ordinary spiritual medicine. However, the roars of demonic beasts were emitted, and the aura was very strong. Therefore, I did not dare to enter. A skinny large man said to a black-robed old man in front of him. There were some people fighting here not long ago. Could it be that they were fighting over a spiritual medicine? Let's quickly go in and take a look. The black-robed old man scanned his surroundings. He gently waved his hand, indicating for everyone to enter the cave to investigate. Immediately, a dozen figures carefully rushed into the cave. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, just as these dozen or so people entered the cave, a stream of energy suddenly fell from the sky. Like a thunderbolt, it exploded with a loud bang, and a low-energy sonic boom resounded through the cave. Rumble rumble rumble. The earth shook and the mountains swayed. Violent ripples of energy swept out like a storm. It seemed to be mixed with some kind of terrifying energy. The dozen people did not even have the chance to let out a miserable cry before their life force was instantly destroyed. They did not even know how they died. Now, we don't owe him anything. Follow me. As the old woman's voice faded, her figure immediately rushed into the air. There's no time to say goodbye. You have to be well. A helpless expression appeared on Dongli Qingqing's pretty face. After which, she looked at the cave below the mountain peak. A strand of black hair by her ear faintly moved. Her white hand gently lifted, and her figure was wrapped by a suction force as she rushed into the air. Finally, she disappeared into thin air. Swoosh! A figure hurriedly rushed out from within the cave. Looking at the sky, he seemed to faintly see a beautiful green figure disappear in the air. Following which, his gaze landed on the dozen corpses on the ground. Black Fiend Sect. The dozen corpses all had the symbol of the Black Fiend Sect. Du Xiaofu's still pale face immediately turned serious. Originally, he had thought that there were no longer any members of the Black Fiend sect in the vicinity after leaving the mountain range. However, from the looks of it, there were still members of the Black Fiend sect in the vicinity. Du Xiaofu was originally adjusting his breathing when he suddenly heard the astonishing tremors outside. He withdrew his hand seal and stopped his breathing. Not seeing Dongli Qingqing's figure beside him, he quickly ran out. He did not expect to see the dozen corpses of the Black Fiend sect outside the cave. The figure in the air should also be Dongli Qingqing. She should be the one who killed them. Is she leaving? That's right, she will eventually leave. However, I don't know if we will have the chance to meet again in the future. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the sky. The gaze in his eyes was a little absent-minded. After which, he lowered his eyes. A long while later, he withdrew his mind and softly muttered, "The Black Fiend sect is really everywhere. Looks like I can't stay here any longer." At dusk, the sun set in the west, enveloping the dark forest. As night fell, it was as if the world had suddenly fallen into darkness. The bright moon hung in the sky, hovering in despair at the edge of the dark forest. In the mountain range, the night wind blew slightly. The continuous stretch of towering trees rose and fell slightly. The treetops swayed slightly, casting long and unpredictable shadows in the mountain forest like ghosts. Roar! In the silent night, in the vast forest, the cries of fierce birds and beasts would occasionally come from the depths. In a secluded valley, the night fog lingered. Between the cliffs, there was a cave that was difficult to discover. Inside the cave, there was a faint golden light that pervaded the air. A faintly discernible tyrannical aura spread out in an extremely swift and fierce manner, causing the surrounding fierce birds and beasts to flee far away. Inside the cave, a rather dazzling golden light accompanied by the flickering of the runes fluctuated. This invisible energy was like a materialized sound wave. In the end, it collided with the hard stone walls of the cave, causing the surrounding stone walls to tremble slightly. It was very tyrannical and fierce. After a long time, the faint golden light turned into strands of energy and withdrew. Chapter 177. The night was as cold as water. In the dark forest, the continuous sea of trees and mountains leaned against each other, like a monstrous dark beast sleeping peacefully under the hazy moonlight. The tall swaying treetops were like umbrellas, clouds, and cotton, like a splash ink painting in the dark night. It's impossible for them to disappear without a trace. Search for them, we must find that treasure. And that king-scaled demonic tiger, it's impossible for them to escape from the dark forest. On top of a mountain in the dense forest, a black-clothed old man who was over 50 years old had a gloomy look in his eyes. Elder Chi, the head of the sect, sent a message saying that we must find the treasure as soon as possible. The Mu clan fort and other forces have also recently intervened. Not long ago, the young head of the sect suffered a loss at the hands of the people from the Mu clan fort and lost many disciples. A man in a black shirt said respectfully to the old man in black who was in his 50s. Reply to the leader, the treasure should be in the hands of the king-scaled demonic tiger and the others. As long as we find the king-scaled demonic tiger, we should be able to find those people. The old man in black looked gloomy and his eyes flashed with murderous intent. He said, according to my observation, it should be a few brats, and there seems to be a woman. Tell our information network to pay attention to the movements in the dark forest. Elder Chi, the young sect master, is not far ahead. Should we go to the young sect master? The big man hesitated for a moment and then asked the old man. Tell the young leader that we'll look for the treasure first and ask him to be careful. The old man in black shook his head. A moment later, dozens of figures quickly darted into the dark forest and disappeared. The first rays of the morning sun shone. In an instant, above the firmament, thousands of golden rays pierced through the clouds and dyed the vast and boundless sea of trees with a layer of rouge. The light shone obliquely on the cliffs and the clouds were dyed red, then slowly faded. In the canyon, Du Xiaofu's hand seals changed one by one. As the seals changed, runes flowed and shone. Whoosh! Suddenly, the talisman runes began to form on his back. With a flicker of light, they formed a pair of golden talisman wings on his back. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from Du Xiaofu's body. The rune wings on his back flapped, and he immediately floated into the air. His wings flapped, and light flowed. Like a giant peng spreading its wings, he soared through the 9 heavens. Peng descends to the 9 heavens. Du Xiaofu let out a loud shout. His voice was like a sudden clap of thunder that resounded through the canyon. The wings on his back flapped in a daze, and the airflow whizzed out with a terrifying momentum. This was not a real golden-winged rock, but when it flapped its wings, it was as if a real golden-winged rock had descended. The wings were only condensed from talisman runes, but it was as if a real golden-winged rock was floating in the air, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged rock race. Roar! A terrifying aura swept out. At this moment, in the distance of the surrounding mountains, the ferocious birds and beasts seemed to have sensed such a terrifying aura. They screeched and roared, and their bodies prostrated themselves. Early in the morning, the sun had just risen above the mountains, and was covered by the bright red clouds. The sunlight shone through the gaps in the clouds, like countless giant dragons spitting out golden waterfalls. On the towering peaks of the clouds, the cliffs were instantly lit up. In the blink of an eye, the clouds in the mountain forest dispersed, and the mountains were covered in verdant green. Many ancient buildings with exquisite carvings were hidden, and no one knew how many years they had existed, as if they had existed for eternity. In this vast space, no one knew where it existed in this world. The mountains here were connected, and all of them were towering into the clouds. The mountain range was continuous, and the trees on the mountains were luxuriant. The cliffs were steep, and the rivers were surging. A lone peak stood tall. The mountain was covered in lush shade and the vast blue sky in the early morning. A few wisps of morning clouds just happened to form an elegant and lively landscape painting. On the peak of the mountain, a beautiful figure stood. Her green dress fluttered in the wind, and her ink-black hair reflected the bright and beautiful luster of the sun. Her delicate face revealed an otherworldly beauty, and she was only 16 or 17 years old. The beautiful figure of the young girl stood there, and on her otherworldly face, her ethereal eyes flickered like stars. She looked at a certain place in the sky, and seemed to be in a daze for a long time. Then, the corner of her mouth slightly moved, and she murmured softly, "Brother from afar, do you know that there is still a younger sister like me? One day, I will leave this place to find you and father. Wait for me." As her voice fell, the beautiful figure leaped out, and slowly descended from the peak, like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Her green dress fluttered in the wind, and her long ink-black hair poured down in torrents behind her head. She was as otherworldly as a fairy, and also extraordinary and proud of the world. Pooh! A terrifying and overbearing aura swept out, and golden rays of light erupted. The runic wings behind Du Xiaofu's back were like a real peng descending to the world. The wings flapped, and his body flew in the air, and the vibrating airflow whistled. But for some unknown reason, Du Xiaofu suddenly sneezed, and then the runic symbols behind him scattered, and the terrifying aura directly became chaotic. Bang! Then, the pitiful Du Xiaofu was like a bird with broken wings, and directly fell from the sky. He fell face first, and his nose was bruised and his face was swollen, and his whole body was in pain. Who is talking about me? Du Xiaofu climbed up in a sorry state. If it wasn't for that sneeze that disturbed his mind, he definitely wouldn't have fallen. However, Du Xiaofu was clear in his heart that it was because he didn't thoroughly comprehend it, and it was far from enough. Fortunately, he was only cultivating, and if he was fighting with his opponent, then he would be in big trouble. Continue to comprehend. Peng descends to the 9th heaven. Du Xiaofu murmured softly, and patted the dust off his body. His hand seals condensed, and the runic symbols flashed, and then he continued to comprehend. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was also comprehending one of the techniques of the golden-winged great rocks. The rock descends to the 9 heavens. This was originally one of the golden-winged great rock's beast abilities, and it was also an extremely terrifying attack technique. From the cultivation technique of the golden-winged great Peng clan, Du Xiaofu knew that when a real golden-winged great Peng clan expert used Peng descends to the 9 heavens, the great Peng would spread its wings, and its true form would appear, soaring through the 9 heavens, and traversing the firmament. Its pressure was enough to crush and destroy everything. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu had comprehended it, and at present, he didn't have any extravagant hopes of reaching that level. He just felt that he hadn't reached the pulse spirit realm, and was unable to fly. His enemy, the Black Kills sect, was hiding everywhere, and only wanted to comprehend some of the shallow mysteries of Peng descends to the 9 heavens so that they could borrow the momentum to fly. If he wanted to comprehend and use the complete Peng descends to the 9 heavens, it was definitely impossible for him to do so now. As he immersed himself in comprehending, Du Xiaofu also entered a state of comprehension. For a moment, he seemed to have forgotten that he was still in the dark forest, and that he still had to go to Tianwu Academy. Just like that, several days passed. Within the cave, Du Xiaofu's body was enveloped in a mysterious white light. The white light was like a divine light, and a powerful aura filled the cave. Under the white divine light, one could see that Du Xiaofu's face was no longer pale. Instead, there was a faint redness, and it seemed that the injuries in his body had all healed. Furthermore, his aura had also returned to its original state. If one were to carefully sense it, they would be able to sense that this aura seemed to have faintly strengthened. Hula, after an unknown period of time, a strange energy fluctuation suddenly surged within the cave. Not long after the fluctuation spread out, a powerful aura suddenly surged out from Du Xiaofu's body, whose eyes were tightly shut. Boom! This aura continued to rise. In an extremely short period of time, it broke through an invisible bottleneck, and the aura climbed to a new height. At this moment, the white divine light around Du Xiaofu's body emitted a faint rune light as his aura continued to rise. The pressure became increasingly powerful, and the divine light fluctuation appeared extremely mystical. When his aura completely stabilized, the white divine light around Du Xiaofu gradually disappeared. His tightly shut eyes slowly opened, and a bright light flickered in his eyes. In the end, it quickly disappeared, causing his gaze to become even brighter and deeper. Huff! A long turbid breath was spat out from his abdomen, and Du Xiaofu's face involuntarily revealed a trace of a smile. He could feel that the mental energy in his Naiwen palace was several times stronger than before, and had already broken through to the mysterious level of a 3-star soul symbol master. All of this was because of the incomplete mysterious secret art that was contained within the beast bone. Recently, Du Xiaofu did not spend too much time on the cultivation of his mental energy. However, his progress was not small. Especially after cultivating the incomplete mysterious secret art, Du Xiaofu felt as if his mental energy had skyrocketed. These few days, when he was comprehending rock descents to the 9th heaven, he had also seriously cultivated his mental energy. In addition to his previous accumulations, he did not expect that he would make another breakthrough. If it was not for the incomplete mysterious secret art, Du Xiaofu estimated that it would take at least half a year for him to break through to the mysterious level of a 3-star soul symbol master. In these few days, his injuries had also completely recovered. Night, the moonlight was like a waterfall. When the first rays of the morning sun arrived, the dark forest once again burst forth with life. Whoosh! On a cliff, a purple-robed figure climbed up like an ape, and then appeared on a wide boulder. Huff, this was a purple-robed youth. His eyes slightly narrowed, and his gaze swept across the clouds that had yet to dissipate in the early morning sky. He took a deep breath of fresh air, and then his hands formed a seal. A pair of pale golden rune light condensed into a pair of wings that fluttered out. He flapped his wings, and along with a domineering and fierce aura, he swept across the sky like a giant rock. In the dense forest, Du Xiaofu's figure quickly swept out. The profound energy under his feet surged, and he activated the wave-treading carefree steps. With every step he took, it was as if the ground beneath his feet had shrunk into an inch, and his figure appeared in front of him. Some ferocious birds and ferocious beasts felt an invisible aura, and would flee from afar. Chi! Suddenly, Du Xiaofu stopped in his tracks. Looking ahead, his pupils slightly shrank, as if he had discovered something. Little you, please continue to write in the flowers. Chapter 178. Whoosh! At the same time, celestial chi gushed out from beneath his feet. Du Xiaofu's figure instantly leapt onto a towering tree beside him, his gaze peering down through the gaps in the dense foliage. Ka. Just then, he saw dozens of people walking over slowly from the front. Their auras were restrained, and their footsteps were extremely light. Big brother, why have the Black Fiends sect, Mu Clan Fort, and the other forces all come to this borderland recently? Could it be that some treasure has appeared here? The Black Fiends sect, Mu Clan Fort, and those people are all here. Naturally, they won't be simple. If we encounter them, we'd better avoid them. But the bounty that the Black Fiends sect has put up is not low. If we can find those brats and the king-scaled demonic tiger, we can get a set of noble-grade martial arts techniques. As long as we provide clues, we can get a spirit-grade medicinal pill. This price is really attractive. It's said that many people have joined the search party for those brats and the king-scaled demonic tiger. Kuan-zi, have you lost your mind because of too many women? The Black Fiend sect is offering a huge bounty for the king-scaled demonic tiger. Even if we find it, I'm afraid we won't be alive to receive the bounty. Besides, no one knows what those brats look like, so there's no way to find them. Heh, boss, I'm just saying. If the Black Fiend sect can't find them, how could we encounter them? But if we can get the spirit-grade medicinal pill and noble-grade martial arts techniques, we'll be rich. I wonder who offended the Black Fiend sect. Now that they're being hunted by them, I'm afraid it's not a good feeling. Anyway, it's fine as long as it's not us who offended the Black Fiend sect. Dark Forest Town is not far ahead. Once we reach the town, we'll sell off our gains this time. Then, we can rest for a while. I think you want to go find some women. You haven't touched a woman for 2 months. You can't hold it in anymore. The group of people laughed and cursed in low voices, then disappeared from Du Xiaofu's sight. Chi! As the group of people completely disappeared from sight, Du Xiaofu's figure gently landed on the ground from the towering tree. His expression was slightly gloomy. His eyes narrowed slightly on his resolute and determined face as he softly muttered, "I didn't expect the Black Fiend sect to actually start issuing a bounty. This means that at the very least, Little Tiger and the tomboy have not fallen into their hands." After pondering for a moment, Du Xiaofu touched the faint and almost undetectable mark of the Black Fiend's soul tracking seal on his neck. The Black Fiend's soul tracking seal was still sealed, which meant that the people from the Black Fiend's sect did not know who he was. Although Shui Yunming from the Black Fiend's sect had seen him and even exchanged blows with him, he did not know that he was related to the little green bird they were looking for. It was likely that he would not be too anxious to find trouble with him unless he accidentally bumped into him. "Black Fiend's sect, since you've angered me, then I'll play with you. If you want to catch me, then we'll have to see if you have the ability." Du Xiaofu softly muttered, a somewhat awe-inspiring expression surfaced on his resolute face. In the deep and boundless forest, a dozen figures appeared on a hillside with a slightly wider line of sight. They were all dressed in black, and although the cultivation aura on their bodies was not too strong, their aura was extremely fierce and bloody. From this fierce and bloody aura, it was not difficult to determine that these people had lived a life of slaughter. If they were to encounter those rookies of the same cultivation level outside, it was likely that they would be able to fight against 10 of them. "Boss, so much time has passed, but the king-scaled demonic tiger and those little ghosts have yet to appear. The guardian elders are also unable to sense the aura of the Black Fiend's soul tracking seal. I'm afraid that the king-scaled demonic tiger and those little ghosts have already left the dark forest." A skinny youth with a rather sharp mouth and monkey cheeks said. He respectfully said to a middle-aged man in front of him. "Impossible. The elders said that the Black Fiend's soul tracking seal should have been tampered with. Although they are unable to sense the specific traces of the Black Fiend's soul tracking seal, they are able to sense the fluctuations of the Black Fiend's soul tracking seal in the vicinity. It has not left this large area. As long as the experts of the sect come, they will have a way to lock onto the specific traces of the Black Fiend's soul tracking seal. When that time comes, those bastards are doomed to die." The middle-aged man's gaze was fierce. He looked at the large hilltop within his line of sight and said, "All of you, be 120% alert. You must find them. The sect master has ordered that whoever finds the treasure will be heavily rewarded." Chi! Just as the middle-aged man's voice fell, an unforeseen event suddenly occurred in the forest behind him. A figure silently shot out and a pale golden light swept out. Then, before the two black-clothed men could even make a sound, a bloody hole appeared at the back of their heads. Bang bang! The two black-clothed men fell to the ground and became two corpses. The pale golden light behind them suddenly exploded, and a domineering and fierce aura swept out. Low muffled sounds of energy rang out, accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. Then, one after another, the corpses directly fell down, without the slightest ability to resist. "Quickly retreat," the leading man shouted. As the runes spread, the phantom of a lizard demon beast that was dozens of feet long rushed out, wanting to suppress his opponent with its vain spirit. The difference between the pulsation realm and the pulsation realm's vain spirit was substantial, and it was insurmountable. Just as the lizard phantom was formed, the purple-robed youth's figure appeared in front of it. He did not care about the lizard phantom's vain spirit at all. With a wave of his hand, the golden runes spread, and a pressure was released, enveloping the lizard phantom, causing fear to appear in its eyes. "Destroy!" A faint voice came from the purple-robed youth's mouth. With a wave of his hand, the lizard phantom's vain spirit shattered like a giant rock. It was unstoppable. Not good. With his vain spirit destroyed, the middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood again. It was as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes were filled with shock, and his body suddenly leaped up into the air, wanting to escape. Generally speaking, no matter how strong or abnormal a pulsation realm cultivator was, it was unlikely that they could kill a pulsation realm cultivator. This was because a pulsation realm cultivator could already float in the air, and a pulsation realm cultivator could not do so. With this advantage, a pulsation realm cultivator could not kill a pulsation realm cultivator. At least if a Pulsation Realm cultivator wanted to escape, a Pulsation Realm cultivator would not be able to catch up. It's too late to escape. A cold and indifferent voice sounded out almost as the middle-aged man rose into the air. The purple-robed youth leaped out like a giant rock soaring into the air. He directly grabbed the middle-aged man's left leg and dragged him down. The middle-aged man tried to break free with all his strength, but at this moment, he was powerless. He was unable to break free from the purple-robed youth's restraints. Then, the purple-robed youth grabbed him by the ankle like a snake and fiercely threw him headfirst onto the ground. Bang! Such a heavy fall caused the ground to tremble and the mountains to shake. Cracks spread out, and the middle-aged man did not even have the chance to scream before he turned into a pile of meat paste. Everything in the surroundings calmed down, and the coldness on the purple-robed youth's face faded a little. After looting a few chincoin bags, he picked up a tree branch and dipped it in the blood on the ground. After leaving a few bloody words on a large tree, his figure entered the depths of the forest and disappeared. A day later, in a canyon, the corpses of 15 Black Fiend sect disciples were scattered everywhere. A Pulsation Realm mysterious level cultivator had also become a corpse. In the canyon, a purple-robed youth dipped a rock in blood. After leaving a few bloody words on the rock, his figure entered the dense sea of trees and disappeared. At dusk, deep in the mountains not far away, the corpses of 8 Black Fiend sect disciples were dripping with blood. A few bloody words were left on the scene. There's more today. Continue to ask for fresh flowers. Little you, continue to fight. Chapter 179. At dusk, deep in the mountains not far away, the corpses of 8 Black Fiend sect disciples were drenched in blood. There were also a few words written in blood at the scene. The next morning, in a forest hundreds of miles away, there were also words written in blood beside the corpses of 26 Black Fiend sect disciples. 3 days later, in the dense forest hundreds of miles away, there were 5 words written in blood on a big tree beside the corpses of 26 Black Fiend sect disciples. The words read, "Vow to destroy the Black Fiend sect." In the past few days, the news had spread around the dark forest. Within a few days, more than 100 Black Fiend sect disciples had been killed, including many Pulse spiritual realm cultivators. Although these hundreds of people were the absolute elites among the Black Fiend sect disciples, or else they would not have been sent out to search for treasures, these hundreds of people were undoubtedly a drop in the ocean for the entire Black Fiend sect. However, there was no doubt that someone had declared war on the Black Fiend sect. It was not difficult for the crowd to guess that the people who had recently been hunted down by the Black Fiend sect had started to take revenge. This kind of revenge was chilling even for those who had been in the dark forest. As long as the Black Fiend sect disciples were caught by the mysterious people, none of them could escape. They were all killed. In the dense forest, hundreds of Black Fiend sect disciples stood. Everyone looked at the 26 corpses on the ground, their eyes twitching. Naturally, none of the Black Fiend sect disciples present were merciful people. However, at this moment, seeing the bloody corpses of their own people lying in front of them, the impact was naturally different. They were especially worried that they wouldn't know if it would be their turn to be the next one to die. All the Black Fiend sect disciples knew that this was definitely the revenge of the people who had been hunted down. Once they encountered them, they would naturally not be merciful. In front of the hundreds of Black Fiend sect disciples, there was a young man in a black shirt. His gaze was extremely gloomy as he looked at the corpses on the ground. He said in a deep voice, "This method seems to be somewhat familiar." "It is very familiar. It seems to be the method of the purple-robed young man," a one-armed middle-aged man said. This person was the Pulse spiritual realm cultivator from the Black Fiend sect who had one of his arms torn off by Du Xiaofu during the battle with the Mu fort not long ago. A black-clothed old man in his 50s looked at the corpses around him. His complexion was ashen and extremely unsightly. A sharp killing intent flickered in his eyes as he said loudly, "No matter who it is, my Black Fiend sect will tear him to pieces to vent the hatred in my heart." As soon as he finished speaking, The old man in black looked at the young man in black with some respect and said, "Young master, I wonder when the district elder will return. With the district elder's methods, he will be able to find those people through the black fiend's soul tracking seal." A cold glint flashed across the black-clothed young man's eyes as he said, "We should be able to arrive today. We must find the treasure before the others. If it lands in the hands of the other factions, all our previous efforts will be wasted." The black-clothed old man said sternly, "Don't worry, young sect master. As long as the district elder is here, those fellows will definitely die. They won't be able to hide anymore." The scorching sun hung high in the sky of the dark forest, as if it wanted to roast the dark forest. On the other hand, the forest was rather cool. For some unknown reason, the number of people in the forest was increasing. From time to time, large groups of figures could be seen on the small paths in all directions. After which, they were all heading towards a certain place. On one of the small paths, a purple-robed young man was also walking slowly. He was neither fast nor slow, and his expression was indifferent. However, that invisible aura made the purple-robed young man stand out among the numerous figures in the surroundings. He gave off the feeling of a crane standing among a flock of chickens. For a young man to walk alone in the dark forest, he already stood out like a crane among chickens. The purple-robed young man was Du Xiaofu. During these few days, Du Xiaofu had not been idle. Other than cultivating his mental energy and comprehending the wave-treading carefree steps and rock-ascending the 9 heavens, he had been dealing with the people from the Black Fiend sect. Of course, the results were extremely significant. The enemy was in the open while he was in the dark. Du Xiaofu's results were gratifying, and he had also vented a lot of the resentment in his heart. However, Du Xiaofu wasn't a fool. He wouldn't continue to kill the people from the Black Fiend sect in the same place. Du Xiaofu understood his own strength the best. He might be able to deal with ordinary people from the Black Fiend sect, but if he were to encounter experts from the Black Fiend sect, he definitely wouldn't be able to handle them. Thus, it was best for him to leave as soon as possible. From the conversations he had with the people he had met on the road these past few days, Du Xiaofu learned that there was a place called Dark Forest Town not far from here. It was a place where people from all sides of the Dark Forest would settle down in Dark Forest Town. Of course, Du Xiaofu wasn't someone to be trifled with. Along the way, he had captured a few people he didn't like and interrogated them. He found out about the various factions in the Dark Forest and the direction to Tianwu Academy. The reason why Du Xiaofu came to Dark Forest Town was because he heard that passing through Dark Forest Town was the shortest path to Tianwu Academy. Furthermore, the Black Fiend sect was searching for him everywhere. The most dangerous place might also be the safest place. Du Xiaofu felt that he might as well enter Dark Forest Town openly and let the Black Fiend sect search for him all over the Dark Forest. On a small path in the dense forest, a lady was supporting an old man as they walked slowly. The lady raised her head slightly. She looked to be in her 20s, but her face was filled with freckles and her skin was yellowish. She looked extremely ugly. "Grandfather, Dark Forest Town is just ahead. We're almost there." Looking through a stretch of towering trees, she could vaguely see the outline of a large building in the dense forest. A smile appeared on the lady's face, but the freckles and yellowish skin on her face made her look unsightly. It was hard to imagine that there would be such an ugly lady in the world. "We're finally here." The old man stopped in his tracks, revealing a skinny and tanned face. His entire body was skinny and he wore a plain long gown. It was as though he was carrying a cloth bag on a bamboo pole. His bony chest was stuck to his long gown, faintly resembling strips of blinds. The old man and the ugly lady beside him stood together. One was old while the other was ugly, but they looked extremely harmonious. "Grandpa, we have found so many people but they were all unable to do anything. Could it be that the person in this small town in the dark forest is stronger than the people we found?" The ugly woman supported the old man. There seemed to be some doubt in her eyes. "Faya, you're a smart girl. You can understand everything with just a hint. However, don't underestimate the dark forest. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons inside. For so many years, no one has dared to touch the dark forest and break the balance. Other than the fact that the dark forest is a chaotic place filled with desperados, the bigger reason is that there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the dark forest. If you provoke those people, the consequences will be dire. The old man said softly and then smiled. At this moment, a few rays of sunlight shone through the gaps in the leaves and shone on his tanned face, causing the old man's face to smile very vividly under the sunlight. The wrinkles on his face seemed to be swimming in joy, and the wrinkles on his face were like small paths that covered the fields. This place is indeed chaotic. The lady said softly. The old man stretched his limping body, which made his already skinny body look like a long mulberry stick. Then, he said to the woman, "This is the dark forest. This is the synonym for darkness and chaos. If you want to survive here, there are only 3 words. Grandpa, those 3 words. Tomorrow, I will continue to sacrifice my happiness and work hard to write. You all must give me your flowers. Today's update is done. Brothers who have not slept, please rest early." Chapter 180. Following the shocking commotion here, the gazes of many people in the surrounding area immediately came from afar. Some of the bolder ones even directly surrounded them. They seemed to be from Free Cloud's sect. Dark Forest Town is the territory of Free Cloud's sect. Dark Forest Town is right in front of us. Who would dare to provoke Free Cloud's sect? Amidst the chaos, the skinny old man and the ugly woman barely dodged the charge of the dark wolf horse. Which bastard did this? Get the hell out here. The dozen or so burly men on the ground hurriedly stood up. All of them had unshaven beards, as if they had not groomed themselves for a long time. Their faces were covered in dirt from the fall, and they were in a very sorry state. Their gazes swept across their surroundings, and they naturally saw that someone had used a rock to smash their mounts. As more than a dozen ferocious-looking burly men roared, no one stood out. Instead, many people who were originally close to the scene moved away, afraid of provoking an unexpected disaster. The dozen or so burly men couldn't find the culprit who had smashed their mounts, and no one stepped forward. For a moment, they couldn't get off the stage. These dozen or so people were actually not stupid. Someone who could throw a rock at them and cause them to fall off their horses was probably not weak. They couldn't just randomly grab a person from the surroundings. They might encounter a force that they couldn't afford to offend. Although the Free Cloud gang behind them was not weak, in the entire dark forest, it was nothing. If not for the fact that they had a powerful backer behind them, they would not have dared to be so arrogant. After all, among the people who came to Dark Forest Town, there were not many who were easy to deal with. At this moment, there was only a purple-robed young man who looked to be 16 or 17 years old. However, he was strolling over from the front. His expression was indifferent, as if he did not know that there was a complete mess in front of him. The dozen or so burly men were unable to find the culprit and were unable to find a way out of their rage. At this moment, they saw a purple-robed young man recklessly walking over. Wasn't this clearly making them even more embarrassed? They were just about to find someone to vent their anger on. A burly man in his 30s, who was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, stared fiercely at the purple-robed youth who was slowly walking over. He angrily shouted, "Brat, tell me, did you do it?" The purple-robed youth was naturally Du Xiaofu. He looked at the large man in front of him and raised his head slightly. Compared to the large man's muscular and tall body, he could not help but appear rather thin. He blinked his eyes and weakly said, "Which eye of yours saw that it was me?" As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the surrounding people were suddenly stunned. Hearing the tone of the purple-robed youth, the surrounding onlookers knew that a good show was definitely going to happen. The purple-robed youth was probably going to be in big trouble. He had directly hit the muzzle of a gun. Cough cough. The skinny old man and the ugly woman at this time also looked at Du Xiaofu. As if he had just been frightened, the skinny old man kept coughing, as if his lungs were about to be coughed out. The ugly woman had been supporting the skinny old man. Her eyes were filled with worry as she constantly patted the old man's back. Kiki. The burly man originally wanted to deliberately find trouble with this brat to vent his anger, but he did not expect to be choked by this young man instead. It was obvious that this young man did not take them seriously. His expression immediately changed and a cold smile appeared on his face. He said, "Brat who is still wet behind the ears, do you think you have lived long enough? If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know that this is Dark Forest Town." Du Xiaofu looked at the sneering burly man and immediately took a step back. His face was filled with frustration and helplessness. He said, "What do you want to do? Don't come over. Otherwise, I will beat you. Bastard, you are fucking courting death." The burly man felt that he was being teased and immediately stomped his foot on the ground. Following the sound of an energy explosion, a shallow footprint was left under his foot. Then, he viciously threw a punch at Du Xiaofu's head. "You really want me to beat you?" Just as the casserole-like fist appeared in front of his face, Du Xiaofu's expression suddenly changed and a cold smile appeared on his face. He did not dodge and directly threw a punch. Golden Xian Qi condensed on his fist and a fierce and domineering energy ripple directly spread out. Bang! Crack! A deep sonic boom was mixed with the sound of bones breaking. Just when everyone thought that the purple-robed young man was unlucky, they saw that the burly man's fist had withered. The burly man's face twitched in intense pain and blood spurted out from the corner of his mouth. However, he could not even let out a scream as his body was sent flying. After falling over a dozen meters away, he had already become a corpse. Everyone was stunned and the surroundings immediately became silent as if they could not believe it. The burly man just now had a cultivation of the initial pulsation realm and his strength was passable. They did not expect that he would be killed by a single punch from the purple-robed young man. This brat is difficult to deal with. Let's destroy this brat together. At the same time that the leading burly man shouted, a purple-robed figure had already appeared in front of him. The figure was like a ghost, causing him to want to dodge. However, he did not know why, but he felt that he could not dodge at all. Then, a deep sound came from his chest and a fist wrapped in golden Xian Qi landed on his chest. A terrifying force poured out and instantly destroyed his internal organs. Pfft. Before the leading burly man could finish speaking, the blood in his mouth mixed with his shattered internal organs came into contact with the ground. Then, he fell to the ground and could not be more dead. Silence. The surroundings were deathly silent. Everyone was flabbergasted, as if they did not dare to imagine the scene before their eyes. That young man who still smelled of his mother's milk was actually so terrifying. No wonder he dared to appear in the dark forest alone. The remaining 10 or so burly men were still shouting loudly. However, at this moment, all of their faces were filled with fear and they did not dare to move at all. The leader was killed with a single punch. They were probably not even worth a fart. The young man in front of them who looked easy to bully was actually a fiend that they could not afford to provoke. The dark forest is indeed a place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. The ugly woman's gaze looked at the purple-robed young man. Her face was covered with freckles and dark skin, but her eyes were extremely bright. All of you scram. If you don't scram, I will beat all of you. Looking at the burly man whose eyes were filled with fear, Du Xiaofu lightly shouted. He did not want to cause any more trouble, in case the Black Fiend sect noticed. If it were not for the fact that it was an old man and a woman, Du Xiaofu would not have planned to make a move. Let's go, let's go. One by one, the burly men acted as if they had just been pardoned. They immediately pulled the few dark wolf horses which had been smashed by the rocks and ran away. What a terrifying young man. I wonder where he came from. He dares to attack the Free Cloud sect in the dark forest. I guess he has some background. Du Xiaofu patted his sleeves and ignored the discussions and stares of the crowd. In the dark forest, Du Xiaofu was very clear about the rules of survival. Only with absolute strength would one be able to survive. Once he displayed his absolute strength, No one would dare to provoke him. "Grandpa, that young man has left." The ugly woman looked at Du Xiaofu's back and said to the skinny old man who was supporting her. Cough. The skinny old man coughed slightly, and a smile appeared on his dark and wrinkled face. Then he sighed and said, "You see, there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons here. With this young man's age, compared to those silk pants in the family, he is not even worth a fart." "Grandpa, these words are a little too much. There are a few in the family who are not bad. Even compared to the juniors in the Du household, they are not inferior." The freckled woman smiled and said, "Fei, your eyesight has always been pretty good. Can't you see that just now, that brat was almost using the power of his physical body? Just by relying on the power of his physical body, he was able to easily take care of a perfect pulsation realm martial artist. Just how powerful is his own strength? Moreover, that young man's level of cultivation is definitely not high. I'm afraid that even if the juniors in the Du household are intentionally hiding, they might not be able to compare to this young man." The old man said with interest. "Looks like my eyesight needs to be improved from Grandpa." The freckled woman smiled, her snow-white teeth faintly visible. She looked at the old man and said, "It is rare for Grandpa to have such a high evaluation of a young man. Could it be that Grandpa has some thoughts? I'm an old man with one foot in the grave. What thoughts can I have? It's just that the young man is a little too young. If he was a few years older, it would be appropriate to betroth you to him. At that time, that young man can be considered half a member of our Xie family. Perhaps in the future, we can rely on him to suppress the Du family." The old man sighed and said, "If we rely on those silk pants in the family now, I'm afraid that in less than 10 years, the Xie family will be completely suppressed by the Du family." "Grandpa, are you making fun of me again? I've said before that I will not marry in this life, and will always serve Grandpa." The freckled woman said with a smile. She revealed a hint of gentleness before the old man. Judging from her back, she should be an extremely charming woman. However, her face was covered in freckles and her dark complexion caused others to not dare to look at her for too long. How can a girl not marry? Who asked you to not be interested in ordinary people? What's the use of accompanying an old man like me? The skinny old man said. All right, Grandpa, let's go into the town. I hope the person you're looking for is here. Otherwise, we've come for nothing. The freckled woman said. The old man said, even if he's here, it's useless. If he's in a bad mood, it's useless to look for him. Dark Forest Town, a small town in the dark forest. Although it was called a town, it was not as big as the towns outside. It was said that a long time ago, Dark Forest Town only had a few wooden houses and a place that sold wine and food. After a long time, more and more people came to stay. Thus, there were shops, wine shops, and even brothels. Last night, I rode until 3 o'clock. After that, I only went to bed after 4 o'clock. Today, unfortunately, I woke up late, causing today's update to be late. I apologize to everyone. Xiao Yu continues to write and also continues to ask for flowers. On a rather deserted street, a skinny old man who looked like a mulberry stick said to a freckled woman beside him. A slight smile appeared on his tanned face, and there seemed to be some faint fluctuations in his eyes that were faintly discernible. The freckled woman looked at an inconspicuous shop in front of her. It didn't even look like a shop, and only the 2 words Medicine Hut hanging on the door proved that it was indeed a shop. The two of them slowly walked into the shop. Everything inside was rather simple, and many places were even covered in dust. The old-fashioned counter looked as though it had not been changed for 100 years. Within the space of a few dozen meters, there were only a few scattered pieces of low-ranked elixirs and elixirs placed on the counter. Behind the counter, there was an old man wearing a gray robe, leaning against the wall and resting with his eyes slightly closed. He seemed to be unaware that someone had entered. Please." The freckled woman slightly raised her head and looked at the gray-robed old man with his eyes slightly closed. Just as she was about to open her mouth and ask, another person suddenly walked into the shop. The freckled woman slightly glanced over, and her gaze slightly moved. She was rather surprised, as she didn't expect it to be the purple-robed young man. Du Xiaofu ran 3 streets, not because he was teased by a woman, but because he had caused quite a commotion. In order to avoid being seen by the people from the Black Fiend sect, he might as well run as far as possible. When he arrived at a street that had suddenly become somewhat quiet, Du Xiaofu slightly raised his head and looked over. There seemed to be a shop not far in front of him. He slowly walked over and saw a signboard with the words Medicine Hut hanging on it. It should be a shop that sold medicinal ingredients, and he walked in. However, what surprised Du Xiaofu was that there were actually 2 familiar figures in the shop. They were the skinny old man and the freckled woman he had seen outside of Dark Forest Town. This caused Du Xiaofu to be rather surprised. However, to Du Xiaofu, this wasn't anything worth paying attention to. As he began to size up the entire shop, the scattered dust within the shop made Du Xiaofu slightly frown. This shop was cold and cheerless, and it didn't seem like it was doing business at all. There was also a gray-robed old man behind the counter, leaning against the wall with his eyes slightly closed. There seemed to be some saliva flowing out of his mouth, and he actually looked like he was asleep. Since he had already entered the shop, Du Xiaofu casually looked around. There were bits and pieces of elixirs and pills, as if they were being sold at a clearance sale. Their grades weren't high, and there wasn't anything that caught Du Xiaofu's attention. In this shop, there were really only bits and pieces of elixirs and pills, and there was nothing else. Du Xiaofu slightly sized up the shop, and casually asked the sleeping old man behind the counter, "Shopkeeper, do you have crown lotus and frost jade orange flowers?" You clearly saw that there are no crown lotus and frost jade orange flowers in this shop, but you still asked me. Are you purposely disturbing my sleep? If you're not buying anything, then leave. Don't disturb my sleep. The sleeping old man behind the counter didn't even open his eyes, and his tone wasn't very friendly. Du Xiaofu was stunned. He really didn't expect this shopkeeper to be so good at doing business. No wonder this shop was so cold and cheerless. He smiled bitterly and was about to walk out of the shop when suddenly, the ground began to shake, as if an earthquake was about to happen. Ayo ayo. At the same time, the roars of many demonic beasts could be heard from afar, and they were getting closer and closer, causing the ground to shake. Rumble. There were no less than 40 dark wolf horses galloping, stirring up dust and filling the sky. On the back of each dark wolf horse, there were several burly men with powerful auras. They stirred up dust and sand, and finally, they came to a stop at the entrance of the medicinal hut in an overbearing manner. Shwa shwa. 200 men dismounted from their horses, each of them wielding a broadsword. Their aura was fierce, and killing intent filled the air. In an instant, it enveloped the entire medicinal hut. What's going on? Who is Free Cloud sect dealing with? Even sect leader Lu Tianxiao has personally come. Although it was a deserted street, quite a number of onlookers quickly gathered at this moment. Even in the neighboring street, when they sensed such a huge commotion, a large number of people began to swarm over. No matter where it was, there would be no lack of people who wanted to watch the show. More than 200 men were brimming with killing intent, and each of them wielded a broadsword. There were 3 men in the lead, and their auras were even more vigorous and fierce. Sect leader, our men have been secretly following him, and finally found out that the kid had entered this place. A man with the face of a rat stepped forward and spoke to the man in the lead, who was dressed in tight clothing. Surround him, don't let even a fly escape. The man in tight clothing waved his hand, and the men behind him immediately surrounded the entrance of the medicinal hut. Each of them wielded a broadsword, and looked murderous. Let me tell everyone a piece of bad news. Little Yu originally thought that he was useless, and wouldn't be able to meet any girls today. However, he was really invited by someone. Hence, Little Yu wants to go out for a meal, and maybe even watch a movie. I won't be updating today, it's a holiday. However, today's update is normal, and I'll update it tomorrow. Alright, I'm going out for a holiday. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.